Chapter 26, Take Back Your Words. What a surprise, it turned out to be the fourth child of the Phenex family, Kamaya Tenraku. Suddenly there was a voice, and then figures came out of the darkness. Walking towards his way was a dark-haired teenager about Tenraku's size, squinting and smiling. To the left side of the teenager was a silver-haired girl who was fixed by the magic phalanx. She floated in the air following the pace of the teenager. From the clothes on her body, she should be a nun in a nearby church. And on the right side of the teenager is Gasper. At this time the teenager is hugging the slim waist of Gasper. Tenraku couldn't help feel his irritation rise up as he saw the teenager's face. Diodora Astaroth. Astaroth family is also like the Phenex family as it is one of the 72 pillars of Underworld, and Diodora is a contemporary genius heir of the Astaroth family. Because he has visited the Phenex family with his elders before, he had recognized Tenraku's identity. Originally, Astaroth was only a moderate family in the 72 pillars, but because of a genius figure in the current main family Ajilka Beasley Bob, who is one of the great four Satans, the Astaroth family also surged and became the top family of Underworld. Others may not know it yet, but Tenraku is aware of the situation in front of him. Looking at the silver-haired saintess, Tenraku knows the reason why Diodora appears here. He just didn't expect that Gasper would fall into Diodora's hands. This is really a bit of trouble. Tenraku-sama, save me. Unable to move around with Diodora's hand around his waist, Gasper shouted pitifully to Tenraku for help. Stomping the urge to smirk for two different reasons, Tenraku turned his gaze to one side as he couldn't bear to look straight. Diodora should have appeared here to capture the saintess of the church. He must have just happened to meet Gasper, who was guarding outside. Maybe he thought that she was cute. Only if Diodora knew that Gasper was actually a fake girl. Tenraku, I heard that you went out to train a few years ago. I didn't expect you to appear here. Imagine my surprise to find that you also had this hobby. We are still in the same boat. Looking at the unconscious Tosca on Tenraku's shoulder, Diodora's eyes flashed with light and smirked. Too lazy to explain anything, Tenraku put Tosca down and then said in a deep voice. Diodora, Gasper is my companion, let him go. The Phenex family and the Astaroth family have been allies. It would be good if Diodora releases Gasper, as Tenraku does not want to have more conflicts with him. Although this is your request, this is not enough. I like this lovely Miss Gasper very much. However, if you want her, then it's not impossible, just exchange it with another beautiful lady in your hands. A glance of greed flashed in Diodora's eyes as he looked at Tosca. Although his favorite toys are those holy beautiful nuns, he also likes other beautiful women. Knowing what this guy was thinking, Tenraku shook his head helplessly, and then said, Gasper is a man. After hearing Tenraku's words, Diodora froze slightly and an idiot-like expression appeared on his face. Tenraku, you can't fool me by telling such a lie. Look at this delicate skin, this pure sweetness. Not believing Tenraku, Diodora stroked Gasper's face and took a deep breath in his hair. Looking at the intoxicated look of Diodora, Tenraku only felt a little tumbling sensation in his stomach and turned his eyes to the side again. I, lovely as I am a man. Not being able to move, Gasper summoned up his courage and spoke while almost crying. If only Tenraku said that, then it wouldn't have mattered to him, but he didn't expect Gasper to say this too, and Diodora became suspicious. Eventually, he put his magic power into Gasper's body to make sure. He thought that the two people were just trying to deceive him, but in the next moment, Diodora's face stiffened, and then a cockroach-like distorted look appeared on his face. With a sharp sip, Diodora slapped Gasper away, and then he used his magic power to gather a stream of water and desperately washed his palm that had touched Gasper's face just now. He even hugged a man's waist, he even touched a man's face, he even showed that intoxicated expression because he smelled a man's scent. Diodora is going crazy. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Where there were calmness and elegance before, at this time, Diodora's face was ferocious. Tenraku-sama, I am defiled. Crawling from the ground and running back to Tenraku, Gasper spoke with a pitiful look. I told you to not wear women's clothes, whose fault is it that you didn't listen? Tenraku didn't know how many times he had said this to this boy, but he just didn't change it. But, Valerie said it was cute like that. Sniffing, Gasper was also endlessly aggrieved. This late pseudonym boy was really hopeless. Tenraku was still preparing to say something, but suddenly, his face changed and he grabbed Gasper and jumped up. The place that they had just stood was attacked by a magic bullet. Diodora, what the hell are you doing? Tenraku shouted as he looked at Diodora, who attacked from the side. Damn him, I'm going to kill him. Diodora growled with a grim look on his face. Diodora was so angry at the thought of what happened just now. If the guys in Underworld knew about this, then he would be laughed at by them, he would never be able to raise his head in front of them again. So he is going to kill Gasper, he will absolutely kill Gasper. Diodora, I just said that Gasper is my companion, and I will not just sit back if you make trouble for no reason. Tenraku frowned as he looked at Diodora, who looked like a mad dog, and a trace of disgust flashed in Tenraku's eyes. It's just that Tenraku's warning didn't play any role. Instead, it made Diodora's anger more intense. What? Not sit back? What would you do? What can you do? You are a half-breed waste that couldn't even awaken your family's bloodline. Get the hell out of here, otherwise, I will kill you today. Already blinded by his anger, Diodora doesn't have Tenraku in his sights. Although killing Tenraku will be a bit of trouble, but as long as it is done cleanly, who would know that it was he who killed this waste? In order to wash this stain, he just wants to kill now. Tenraku's eyes narrowed and his expression darkened as he watched Diodora's murderous rage. If someone had called him waste before, Tenraku would have only laughed at it and wouldn't worry about it. Because he was indeed a waste then, as he could not awaken his family's bloodline and he had no ability to practice magic. If he had acted brave, it would only end in humiliation. But now it is different. He already has the power. He has made 10 times and 100 times more effort than his peers. He is confident that he will not lose to any of those who are proud of their genius but pamper themselves all day long. Everyone who insults him will pay a price. There was a sharp aura on his body as Tenraku condensed a black demonic sword, and then slowly pointed to Diodora. I'll just say this, Diodora, take back what you just said. Chapter 27, Scream. Tenraku-sama. Gasper looked in awe at Tenraku while standing behind him. Gasper has been following Tenraku for some time now, and he naturally knows that this is Tenraku's angry expression. Tenraku doesn't get angry easily, but every time he gets angry, it's scary. Unlike Gasper's awe, Diodora laughs as if he has heard some great joke. A waste that cannot even awaken his devil's bloodline and take his family's surname dares to talk to him like this. Waste would always remain waste, what if I don't take it back? Looking up with an arrogant expression on his face, Diodora's tone was filled with mockery. As a pure-blood devil and the genius of the Astaroth family, Diodora is proud of himself and he can back up that pride with power and status. But what about Tenraku? A waste that can't even awaken the Phenex bloodline, he is a shame upon the Phenex family. Faced with such contempt and disdain, anybody would become angry at this time, but Tenraku was extremely calm as he spoke to Gasper behind him. Gasper, take Tosca away. The more calm Tenraku was, the more pressure Gasper felt. Gasper did not dare to say anything more, so he ran over and helped the unconscious Tosca to get up and walk to the side. With a cold snort, Diodora also raised his hand and pushed the silver-haired saintess, who was held by magic phalanx, aside. Looking coldly at Tenraku, his body exudes cold killing intent. Since this waste dares to provoke him, then he would be taking care of him here. Although he really wouldn't kill Tenraku, but he can torture him to let him know the difference between a genius and a waste. And Diodora made up his mind. After defeating Tenraku, he would kill Gasper in front of him and then snatch the girl named Tosca. Not only to torture his body, but to also trample on his dignity. The atmosphere was solemn. The eyes of the two sides met with each other and sparkle was struck in the air. Acting at almost the same time, the two of them flew towards each other in a flash. Puff! A cold light flashed and blood blossomed in the air, and Tenraku and Diodora also staggered apart. Looking at the long blood trail in front of him, the expressions on Diodora's face looked as if he had seen a ghost. With just one move, he had lost to that waste. Tenraku lowered his sword, but there was a smile on his face. Just now, he didn't use the power of Sacred Gear, he only used his sword skills, but Diodora had no power to fight back. Impossible! Impossible! With red eyes and a crazy look on his face, Diodora began to mutter, as a genius of the Astaroth family, how could he lose to a waste that could not even awaken his bloodline? He could not accept such a thing. After being completely stimulated by fierceness and anger, Diodora turned and jumped, desperately urging the magic power in his body, and suddenly a series of electric fireballs attacked Tenraku. HNG boom! There were flashes of fire and loud bangs, and Tenraku was constantly dodging and he was on defenses. Die! 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 Diodora snarled as a huge phalanx of magic sparkled and sent out fierce attacks. He could not bear the humiliation of losing to a waste, even if he would be in trouble for killing this waste, he could not let him live. He is going to kill Tenraku. But... boom. Huiath. Tenraku's figure flashed in front of Diodora and he kicked his stomach, almost spitting out his internal organs. Diodora used his magic to desperately defend himself, but in the next moment, Tenraku's figure flashed behind him and he slashed Diodora's back with his sword. HNG boom. Diodora has no idea why he can't see Tenraku's moves, why he can't block Tenraku's attacks, why. He is going crazy. Under Gasper's excited gaze, the battle between the two becomes a one-sided abuse done to him by Tenraku, and Diodora is no match for Tenraku at all. Die. Leaping into the air, Tenraku smiles sarcastically as he watches Diodora, who has lost his mind and knows nothing but to do random attacks. Not in the mood to continue to play with him, Tenraku's black eyes flashed with an evil light and he once again launched the Sacred Gear's power. Evil eye that stops the world-forbidden Baylor view. An invisible field spread out and all the magic attacks were frozen in the air and even the grim expression on Diodora's face remained motionless. Without any hesitation, Tenraku flew down and directly penetrated Diodora's chest with his sword. You. The power of Evil Eyes was lifted and Diodora looked at the long sword that had penetrated his chest and Tenraku standing in front of him in disbelief. He is still unable to understand what had happened. As a genius of the Astaroth family, despite his young age, Diodora already has the strength of middle-level devil, and he can even reach the level of high-level devil in only 1 or 2 years. Even among Underworld peers, except for the so-called new generation of 4 great Satans, there are few who can match him. But in the battle against Tenraku, whom he regarded as waste, he was defeated and crushed and he didn't even know how he lost to the other party. Is this the so-called genius of the Astaroth family? Tenraku drew his long sword and his faint voice seemed to be filled with disappointment. Puff. Humiliated, Diodora spouted blood from his mouth and fell to the ground. Tenraku-sama is so good, so powerful. Gasper helped Tosca and shouted excitedly. Every time he defeats his enemy, the boy runs out to kiss his ass. Tenraku doesn't bother to talk to him but walks towards the Saintess with a demonic sword in his hand. Bound by the magic phalanx and unable to move or speak. The silver-haired Saintess looked at Tenraku approaching her and closed her eyes in despair. But to silver-haired Saintess' confusion, Tenraku did not kill her, but cut through the magic formation allowing her to return to freedom. Miss Saintess, don't be caught by the evil devil next time, hurry back. Hearing Tenraku's voice, the silver-haired Saintess hadn't recovered for a long time. She didn't understand, didn't devil exist for evil? Everyone in church has been teaching her this way, just like the devil who caught her and wanted to do something evil to her, but why did the devil in front of her want to let her go? Looking at the silver-haired Saintess, who seemed to be scared out of her wits, Tenraku ignored her and turned to go to Gasper and Tosca. Looking back, she realized that there is still too much she didn't understand, but the silver-haired Saintess knows that the boy in front of her has saved herself. She took a deep look at Tenraku and remembered his appearance in her mind, then she bent over in thanks before running out of the forest, disappearing into the night. Tenraku-sama, let's get out of here quickly. This location is not very far from the church here. The battle between Tenraku and Diodora has probably caught the Chiche's attention and Gasper is eager to get out of here. Let's go, but before that. He picks Tosca up and carries her on his back, but Tenraku looks away at Diodora, with a smirk on his face. As a pure-blooded devil, Diodora's physical fitness is far superior to ordinary people, even if Tenraku's sword pierced through his chest, he did not die. Naturally, Tenraku would not kill Diodora on the spur of the moment, he would not do such a reckless thing without having the absolute invincible power. However, although he cannot kill Diodora, it is possible for him to do something else. The Astaroth family's young man seems to have a fetish for saintess and nuns, and it is not known how many pure nuns and saintess were harmed in the original novel. As a price for insulting himself, Tenraku already has a punishment in mind for Diodora. Under Gasper's stunned expression, Tenraku held the demonic sword directly under Diodora's crotch, and then his spirit chi broke out, instantly twisting the sword in Diodora's inferior root and shattering it. At this level, let alone the general recovery of magic, even the tears of Phenex cannot allow that to recover. Let's go, Gasper. The demonic sword dissipated and Tenraku shouted. Ah yes, Tenraku-sama. After recovering, Gasper couldn't help but tremble. He never knew that Tenraku-sama had such a vicious side. Gasper sympathetically glanced at Diodora, who was still unconscious, and quickly followed. Soon after Tenraku left, a scream of endless viciousness sounded in the forest. Kamaya Tenraku. Chapter 28, Hero. Underworld, Gremory main residence. On the huge training ground, a maiden with wings on her back is floating in the air. The long black hair is tied into a beautiful ponytail. The girl's face is delicate. At the age of 13 or 14, a red and white witch's long skirt is fluttering in the air. It is Akeno, who got separated from Tenraku a few years ago. At a certain moment, Akeno slowly raised one of her jade hands and then suddenly opened her eyes. Thunder and lightning. Crackling. A huge magic array was displayed above Akeno's head, and then a series of silver-colored thunder and lightning shot down, hitting the ground below with a burst of roar. The dust billowed and the electric light rushed up. When everything calmed down, the once solid and huge site was devastated, and all around were the ruins destroyed by thunder and lightning. As she landed slowly to the ground, Akeno also gasped slightly, but looking at the power shown by her attack, her eyes were full of joy that couldn't be concealed. After countless efforts, she has finally become stronger. Pa pa pa. A burst of applause sounded, and two more figures came over. A red-haired princess and a silver-haired girl. That's my queen, Akeno. Your thunder and lightning attacks are getting stronger and stronger. The red-haired princess, Rias Gremory, applauded while applauding. I wouldn't have been able to do this without your help, Akeno said modestly while shaking her head. Although she inherited the ability of thunder and lightning from her mother, it would have been impossible for her to grow to this stage in such a short time without the vigorous training of the Gremory family. Akeno deeply understood this, and she is also very grateful to the Rias and Gremory family who helped her. Akeno, towel. A small hand gently pulled Akeno and passed a towel. It was the silver-haired girl who appeared with Rias. Thank you, Konako-chan. Rubbing the girl's forehead lovingly, Akeno also took the towel with a smile. To Zhao Shiron, the girl's name, Konako, is just an alias that Rias has given her, and she is also another of Rias' peerage just like Akeno. Looking at her two peerage's members, Rias sighed for a while. She will not mention Konako for the time being, but Agrippa has rated Akeno as having excellent potential. Sure enough, Akeno is getting stronger every day after coming to Gremory's house. Akeno's rapid growth has even amazed Rias, who has always been a visionary. Despite the stress of being the owner, Rias is not jealous. Akeno is a member of her peerage, she is her queen, her companion. She is also happy as she witnessed Akeno's continuous growth. Oh, Rias, has there been any news of Tenraku? Thinking of something, Akeno suddenly asked, and Rias, who was still smiling, became stiff. Tenraku, Akeno asked about Tenraku every day. Like a little angry child, Rias hugged his hands in front of her and pouted. Rias, are you jealous? Leaning to Rias' ear, Akeno smiled playfully. No, I am be jealous. Who is jealous? I don't have any jealous. The pure Rias is simply not Akeno's opponent, and she shuddered. Rias is blushing. Woo, I am not. You are. Not. At each other's words, the fight soon developed into a arms and legs war. They tore at each other's clothes, and it took a long time before they could even settle down, and they did when Konako pulled them apart. Rias, can you tell me Tenraku news now? Her skirts were pulled apart by the fierce evil princess, but she won the fight by an inch, and Akeno smiled as she breathed. Looking at Akeno's proud look, Rias gritted her teeth. Although she was unhappy, Rias finally said. That guy's been hiding somewhere lately, and I haven't heard anything from Gremory's house about him. This. Not thinking that Rias would deceive herself, Akeno's eyes looked sad. She hasn't heard from Tenraku in a long time. Come on, he is also a descendant of Phenex clan, he will be fine. Looking at Akeno's sad face, Rias couldn't take it anymore and quickly comforted. Nodding her head, Akeno also believed that Tenraku would be fine, but her thoughts not only did not fade over time, but became more intense. Akeno, that Tenraku, is he an important person? Not knowing how many times she had heard of this name from Akeno's mouth, Konako asked with her head tilted up, curiosity shimmering in her gem-like eyes. Gently touching Konako's forehead, Akeno looked at the sky in the distance and spoke. He is my most important person and he is my hero. Romania, Vampire Field. After the chaos 2 years ago, the castle where the half-breeds were confined was strictly guarded. Layers of barriers enveloped the huge building, people outside could go in, but people inside could never come out again. Instead of the old days, all the little vampires gathered in the courtyard of the castle and looked at the man in the middle of the courtyard who had trampled one of their companions on the ground. Their eyes were full of fear. Now, my lovely younger sister, show me your power, your cursed powers from gods. A long sword pierced the man's throat under his feet and he kept stirring it back and forth and smiled darkly. Her face was white and her lips were clenched. Facing the sudden appearance of this man who claimed to be her older brother, Valerie felt nothing but fear. But watching the little vampire on the ground screaming and pleading, Valerie finally walked over. The corners of his mouth rose slightly, and the man stopped his movements and pulled out long sword to one side. Tenraku-sama, I am sorry I disobeyed your orders. Recalling Tenraku's warning, Valerie regretted her actions. As Lord Tenraku said, she has a sacred gear called Holy Grail of the Secluded World Sephiroth Graal, and she awakened Sacred Gear's power not long ago. Lord Tenraku warned her not to use that power, but a few days ago, an injured bird fell on her and she originally intended to ignore it, but in the end, she still used the power of Sacred Gears to save it. But the result was accidentally seen by others, so it has now come to this. Anxious and nervous, under everyone's gaze, Valerie could only lean down and put her hands on the wound in front of little vampire. Seeing a holy ray of light from Valerie's hand, the bleeding wound in front of the little vampire healed quickly, and it only took a few seconds for him to recover completely. Such a powerful healing ability was unheard of and everyone was stunned with an unbelievable expression on their face. The male vampire, who was not far away, stared at Valerie, and a pair of crimson eyes burst out with a surprise light. It really is it. It really is it. As if he knew something, the man started to laugh crazily, everyone was abashed, and Valerie was so scared that she just stood there without even moving. She didn't know what she should do, and what fate would have her face next. Chapter 29, Plunderer. Crash. A man rushed out of the top floor of a 100-story building as splinters of glass flew across the sky. Stop. Well, shoot if you run. You can't get away, Mead. Put the jewels down, you bastard. The police with guns kept chasing behind the man, but the man laughed with no intention of stopping. Bye. Running to the edge of the building and leaping down, the man blew a kiss at the glowering police who had to stop, then his figure disappeared into the night in the blink of an eye. Useless police, you'll never catch me. The wind roared and although the body was falling rapidly, the man laughed without showing any slight tension, and took a gorgeous gem from his pocket and kissed it fiercely. Feeling more or less the same, the man put the jewel back and looked down at the ground and then went up. Hermes boots. If anyone else sees this scene at this time, they will be surprised. They will see a dazzling magic line suddenly appearing at the foot of the man, and his original falling body quickly slowed down. As if he could walk in the air, the man landed smoothly on the ground after a few jumps. Looked at the policemen who were still dumbfounded on the top of the building, the man smiled disdainfully. He's Mead the rogue, the windswept man. Using your sacred gear power to do this kind of thing, you really are insulting the god who gave it to you. Suddenly a sound rang, which surprised Mead. Constantly searching around, he could only hear the sound of footsteps and then three figures emerged from the darkness and stood before Mead's eyes. Looking at the three people who suddenly appeared before him and the young man with black hair and black pupils standing in front of him, the handsome face made Mead a little jealous. Behind the teenager were two girls, with one being a golden-haired girl and another being a white-haired girl. Who are you? Instead of being blinded by the two girls, Mead asked coldly. The sacred gear he owns is his biggest secret, and it's obvious that the three people had bad intentions by suddenly appearing here. You don't need to know who we are, you just need to know that your sacred gear is mine now. The dark-haired boy's voice, with its impossibly calm tone, seemed to say something that was a matter of course, and Mead, hearing it, was furious. Arrogance. Since the other side is looking for trouble, Mead old not be polite with them, he jumped and kicked out in a crescent gas blade whistling toward three people cut. Mead's sacred gear was his greatest secret and reliance. Although it would be a pity to kill the two little beauties, as long as he still has his sacred gear, he would get many other beauties. Only, the next moment, there was a loud bang, and the scene in which three people were chopped into pieces by his own attacks did not appear. Under the stunned look of Mead, a spherical barrier suddenly appeared to cover the three of them, and his attack fell on the barrier and failed to penetrate it. That barrier is not a magic spell. Mead had realized that the other party is also the owner of sacred gear. He has always been confident in his own strength, so Mead does not think that his sacred gear will lose to others. With a sneer, he kicked out several crescent moon blades, and the power of these blades are many times greater than before. However, with a thunderous bang, the spherical barrier flashed a few times and still resisted all of his attacks. Damn it! With a curse, Mead instantly noticed that the situation was not good. He turned around and ran away without thinking, and at his speed, he soon became a black spot in the blink of an eye. Tenraku-sama, the target had escaped. Looking at the escaped Mead, the white-haired girl Tosca said. Yes, the dark-haired boy, the white-haired girl, and the golden-haired pseudo-girl are exactly Tenraku, Tosca, and Gasper. He won't be able to escape. Tenraku didn't have any worries on his face. He raised a hand, and suddenly a few golden auras shot out, chasing towards Mead. Let's go to our collect prey. Damn it, damn it, damn it, what is this? Looking at the 4 gold rings that half hide in the void and half bind his hands and feet, Mead, who is shocked and angry and continued to struggle. Useless, that is Lejun's golden dragonfly, the magic weapon of the Grand Supreme Elderly Lord in Eastern mythology. Even the legendary fighting ape will be trapped by it. You cannot escape with your power. Tenraku said as he walked up from behind him with Gasper and Tosca. Hey, brother, we have no hatred with each other. The things just now are just misunderstandings. Will you let me go? I can give you everything, whether it's money or a woman, as long as you let me go. Unexpectedly, there was such a difficult sacred gear on the other side. Mead was in a hurry and could only ask for mercy. Shaking his head, Tenraku didn't have the slightest intention of letting him go. Although he didn't hate money or women, he even liked it, but he would look for those things by himself. No one else needed to give them. I only need your sacred gear. Too lazy to talk nonsense with the other party again, Tenraku directly activated the ability of Sacred Gear Plunder, and his hand fell into Mead's chest. Ah 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 ah! Mead's cry of pain sounded under the silent night sky, and it was not until the sacred gear was taken out completely that it gradually subsided. With a pale complexion and extreme weakness, Mead seemed to finally remember something when he saw his sacred gear in Tenraku's hand. You are that Sacred Gear Plunderer. Sacred Gear Plunderer, a super important criminal who has been pursued by various forces in recent years. It's said that he possessed the ability to plunder other people's sacred gears. No one in the world had any idea about how many sacred gears have been taken away by him. With a bitter smile, Mead couldn't help but sigh, but no one would have thought that the legendary Sacred Gear Plunderer would be such a young boy in front of him. He even became his target. Unwilling or angry, he couldn't think any more. The extreme weakness made Mead unable to persevere. His head tilted to the side as he fainted. Not caring about the life and death of the other party, Tenraku was looking at the treasured jade in his hands. He saw a pair of gorgeous boots appearing in the treasured jade. The sides of the boots were decorated with golden wings. It is the sacred gear he snatched from Mead. Incorporating the sacred gear into his body, a powerful force quickly fed into his body, but Tenraku only refined and absorbed this force in a moment, without causing any waves. For the current Tenraku, this increase in power is nothing. Hermes Boots is the name of this sacred gear. It can let the host step through the void, go against the wind, and increase the speed of the host explosively. It can even shoot some energy attacks. It is a good sacred gear. Soon, he became familiar with and mastered the sacred gear's ability. Tenraku raised his hand and the few golden rings around the fainted Mead disappeared. Tenraku-sama, where are we going next? Seeing that their goal was completed this time, Gasper on the side asked. Where are we going? Instead of answering Gasper's question, Tenraku looked at the bright starry sky. Counting the years, he has been training for 8 years, and even Tosca, who joined later, has followed him for nearly 4 years. If he remembers correctly, it will be Riser's coming-of-age ceremony soon. Then, at the end of the journey, he should go back to fulfill his promise. Chapter 30, he will be back. In the vast and luxurious castle, the servants in formal attire were constantly at work. Today is a special day. Riser Phenex, the third son of the Phenex family, will have his coming-of-age ceremony today. There are guests who came in the castle from time to time to watch and congratulate. The whole Phenex house is more lively than usual. As the heir to Phenex family who inherited the Phenex bloodline, Riser's coming-of-age ceremony would naturally be watched by many big characters in Underworld. In the magnificent hall, the guests had gathered for an impromptu reception and they were toasting and chatting with each other. A magic array appeared on this hall and several figures appeared. There was a red-haired man, a beautiful silver-haired woman in maid clothing, and 2 beautiful girls. Lucifer-sama. Everyone stopped talking and bowed to the red-haired man who appeared. Surtsk's Lucifer was originally the eldest son of the Gremory family, but he inherited the name of Lucifer because of his powerful magic power and excellent ability. He is one of the 4 great Satans. The maid beside Surtsk's is not immortal. She is beautiful and has a cold temperament. Her name is Graphia Lucifuge. She is known as the silver-haired Queen of Annihilation, and she is also the strongest Queen of Underworld. The 2 girls who appeared with Surtsk's and Graphia were not some unknown people, it was Rias and Akeno. Raise your heads, everyone. Surtsk smiled and nodded to the surrounding guests. Despite being one of the 4 great Satans, Surtsk is known for his kindness that is rarely seen even among the other great Satans. Although his position was questioned by many people, more of them are his lovers and followers. A passage was cleared from the crowd, and the hosts, the Lord Phenex and his wife, came over. Long time no see, Surtsk. How is Lord Gremory? I haven't seen you in a long time, Lord Phenex, and my father is all well, and he asked me to apologize and congratulate you on his behalf. Is this Princess Rias of the Gremory family? Sure enough, you are as beautiful as rumors made you out to be. Last time I saw you, you were still a kid, I didn't expect you to grow so fast. Greetings Duke Phenex, thank you for your praise. Surtsk and Duke Phenex greeted each other, and the next Rias also bowed down as a junior. The dressed-up girl is noble and beautiful and dignified, but unlike the confidence of the past, the smile of the girl today is quite reluctant, and the gem-like eyes are filled with a layer of melancholy. Before leaving, she was informed by her father that he wanted her to marry one of Phenex's heirs. Even her older brother, who had always loved her, had also agreed to this matter, and he also came to investigate for her on the basis of this ceremony. Until now, Rias has not recovered from the confusion. Although Rias knew that this day would come sooner or later, she didn't expect it to come so fast and so suddenly. It's not that she didn't think about refusing it, but her life is destined to be like this, being the eldest daughter and next head of the Gremory family. Standing silently on the side, she didn't listen to the conversation between Duke Phenex and her older brother. The girl's heart was filled with endless confusion. Rias. Looking at Rias' expressions, Akeno next to her became concerned. Although they are nominal master and servants in the peerage, they have long been sympathetic to each other in these 2 years. Akeno knew that Rias is confused right now, but she can't intervene in these things and can't help her. You are the human girl who has fallen angel bloodline? I have heard about you and my boy. Duke Phenex's voice suddenly fell on Akeno's ears, and there was a rare gentle smile on his firm face. Duke. Akeno, who was worried about Rias, was stunned by the attention she was getting from such a big man, and she was at a loss for a moment. Of course, it was not because the disparity in their identity and status that Akeno was nervous. What really makes Akeno at a loss is another identity of the Duke Phenex. Tenraku's father. That boy's taste is not bad. He said before he left that he would come back today. You should be able to see him today. Come back, Tenraku is coming back. Hearing Duke Phenex's words, Akeno was stunned, and then a small smile appeared on her face. Surprise, excitement, joy. The girl can no longer use words to describe her mood at this moment. Come back, Tenraku, who she cares and asks about every day, will come back. Looking at Akeno's surprise and excitement, Rias on the other side became more resentful. Damn it, Akeno, I'm almost forced to do this, but you only think about that guy. Traitor. No loyalty. I hate you. In the large and magnificent room, a golden-haired handsome man is being carefully dressed by several maids. This person is Riser Phenex. Devils have long lifespans, so their coming-of-age ceremony gets performed later than humans. Riser has been waiting for this day for too long, and today, the whole world will be his stage. Identity, status, power, every single one of them is an enviable existence. As the descendants of the Phoenix, he as the 3rd son of the Phenex family has absolutely pride in himself. He was so excited and there was an uninhibited smile on his face, he couldn't wait. Carlamine, come here, I want to enjoy your fragrant lips. Looking at Carlamine among the other girls, he commanded, with a trace of enchantment hovering around his mouth. Carlamine turned white at the sound, but she bit her lip and didn't move. Why, Carlamine, you who will be my knight dare to disobey your master's orders? Carlamine's reaction caused Riser to frown and his face darkens. For a moment, the atmosphere in the whole room became tense, and all the other women around froze. Finally, Yubelina stood and spoke. Master Riser, please bear with her. We will conclude a contract with Lord Riser when the ceremony is over, and become your peerage members. Then any orders of Lord Riser will be executed by Carlamine. The ceremony is about to begin, Master Riser, you shouldn't keep your guest waiting. After a change of expression, Riser finally stopped with a cold snort, but he still gave Carlamine a cold look as he passed by her. He will punish this ignorant woman after the contract is concluded. Carlamine, this would be the only time I save you, don't have any illusions anymore, His Royal Highness Tenraku will not come back. Looking at Carlamine lightly and knowing what she was thinking, Yubelina said. No, he will come back. Raising her head, Carlamine's eyes were filled with stubborn perseverance. Shaking her head, Yubelina was too lazy to say anything more. Even if His Highness Tenraku came back, he is someone who couldn't awaken the Phenex bloodline and he had no talents. He couldn't compare with Lord Riser. If he does come back, then he would only bring shame to himself, that is the reality, and the reality is always cruel. Of course, Yubelina doesn't miss the 1 in a million chance that Lord Tenraku actually returns and beats Lord Riser. If that's the case, it would really be a miracle. Chapter 31, Return. On the vast plaza, Riser takes center stage, while the surrounding terraces are filled with congratulatory guests. Gentlemen, today is my coming-of-age ceremony, and I thank you all for coming. Bathed in the eyes of everyone, Riser was filled with enthusiasm and passion. Stimulating the magic power in the body, a high bird cry was suddenly heard and a huge flaming bird rose from behind Riser, causing a burst of cheers around him. The corners of his mouth were raised, he raised his hands and felt powerful as he was being watched by countless eyes. Riser only felt that he was almost drunk. Rias, what do you think? On the VIP seat at the high table, Sertsk smiled at Rias next to him. Knowing what her older brother meant, Rias snorted while saying, he is a self-righteous bastard, he looks like a guy who likes to show off. The eldest and second son of the Phenex family have their own contracts for marriage. If the Gremory family wants to marry someone into the Phenex family, the most likely candidate is Riser Phenex. But Riser's arrogant nobleman persona doesn't work in his favor. Even Rias, who can get behind any rebellious psychology, looks disgusted while watching him. Rias has made up her mind, even if it is not possible to cancel the marriage contract with Riser at the current moment, but as long as she collects her peerage in the future, she will be able to cancel the marriage contract through a rating game. If Sana can do it, then Rias can do the same. Sertsk in the high seat smiled and shook his head with a bitter expression on his face. Although Riser was inadequate compared to those top-level geniuses, he was definitely an excellent presence in the young generation of the Underworld. His younger sister is good, but her vision is not that high. However, as the younger sister of Sertsk, the princess of the Gremory family, she has that qualification to that. On the stage, Riser finished his speech and officially began his adulthood ceremony under the auspices of the elder. The ceremony done by each family in the Underworld are different, some are simple and fast, some are complex and lengthy, and the Phenex family belongs to the latter. The people watching the ceremony did not show the slightest impatience, and Riser also completed the ceremony step by step. Finally, with the announcement of the elder, Riser raised his hand towards the sky and was bathed in the wave of cheers again. From now on, Riser Phenex is an official adult devil. After the coming-of-age ceremony was completed, it was the moment to conclude a contract with peerage. A waiter brought the pieces out, and Yubelina also took the stage. Carlamine, Swillen, Isabella, Mai, Cirrus looking at the group of young girls who exuded powerful magic power, the guests who were watching the ceremony were also in an uproar. None of the people present were ignorant and they have outstanding knowledge, but none of them can see that each of those girls had extremely excellent qualifications. They just looked at their magic power and they marveled at the greatness of the Phenex family for finding such people with great magic. Of course, compared to Marvel, some people envied Riser Phenex, especially those male devils. How the hell is this a peerage? This is obviously a harem. Feeling the envious and even jealous eyes, Riser raised his mouth, but he was feeling proud in his heart. As long as the contract is concluded, Yubelina and the other girls would belong to him. Their body, their loyalty, everything about them would belong to him. Father. Above the platform, Ravel's face held an eager expression on it. With a slight glance at Ravel, Duke Phenex seemed to know what the girl wanted to say and he spoke. Riser is my child and Tenraku is also my child, I will not be partial to either side. Ravel is quite smart and she understood her father's words. Looking at Riser, Yubelina and the other girls who are about to conclude a contract, she can only continue to pray in her heart. Tenraku Unai-chan, come back quickly, otherwise you will never have a chance. As if responding to the prayer in the heart of the girl, at this time. Click! The thick bronze giant door above the square was suddenly pushed open, the whole square and the high platform became quiet, and then under the gaze of countless eyes, 3 figures walked in from outside. Among the 3 figures were a dark-haired boy, a white-haired girl, and a golden-haired girl who was actually a guy. These 3 people are Tenraku, Tosca, and Gasper. At the last moment when the contract was about to be concluded, Tenraku finally came back. Ravel was feeling unbelievable, Carlamine was very excited, and Akeno beside Rias was completely stunned. Involuntarily covering her lips, the girl's eyes were filled with tears, and her eyes were filled with only one figure, and in this moment, nothing else in the world mattered to her. He came back, he really came back. The guests watching the ceremony wore a blank expression on their faces as they didn't know who these 3 people were. The Phenex couple on the main seat showed a smile, while Riser on the stage made an angry expression. Tenraku Unii-chan. With a cheer, Ravel jumped down and with the help of flame wings, she flew towards Tenraku. Welcome back, Tenraku on older brother Sama. The delicate face was covered with blush, and Ravel finally restrained the urge to plunge into Tenraku's arms like a little girl and elegantly welcomed him. You have grown up, Ravel. When Ravel heard Tenraku's voice, she couldn't help losing her mind for a moment. Her Tenraku Unii-chan is more handsome than ever. Just when her mind was about to be trapped in primal chaos, Tenraku took a step forward and then pointed at the girl's forehead with 2 fingers. But you still call me Unii-chan. After returning to reality, the blush on Ravel's face became more intense, but she whispered it by chance. Oh you, Unii-chan. I will talk to you later, wait for me for a while. Okay. Rubbing Ravel's forehead, Tenraku calmed her down, and then his figure flashed as he appeared on the high platform above the square. Father, Madam. Tenraku greeted the Phenex couple in the main seat. You came back? Yes, I came back. Do you still want to do it? Yes. Then do it. The dialogue between father and son after many years was simple and straightforward. After getting his father's consent, Tenraku's figure flashed in front of Rias and Akeno on the side. Tenraku nodded at Rias and then he stroked Akeno's forehead while saying, Wait for me. The short 3 words broke the girl's tightly held heartstring instantly, and tears could no longer be suppressed in her eyes, but Akeno still nodded with a gentle smile on her face and spoke. I'll wait for you. The man who made the girl cry is not a good man. Tenraku laughed at himself but his figure disappeared again in a flash. The guests around them were already in an uproar, Rias' eyes flashed in splendor, and even Surtsk smiled, seeming to have a trace of interest in his eyes. Having returned to the square below, Tenraku looked at Riser above the stage and raised a hand before speaking. Yo, Riser, long time no see. Chapter 32, Talent. What are you doing back? Riser asked as he watched Tenraku with a cold look on his face. He had imagined his contact getting concluded with Ubelina and others, and then it ended perfectly, but Tenraku appeared at the last minute. He is really an annoying guy as always. Don't be so crass. How can you say that to your brother? Naturally, I have come back to congratulate you on your coming-of-age ceremony. Congratulations, Riser, you will be an adult devil from now on. With a smile on his face, Tenraku's sincere face caused a few laughs among Ubelina and the girls. The corners of Riser's mouth twitched, and he glared angrily at Tenraku. It was the twin girls who had just been recruited by the family and didn't know much about the rules who had laughed. Nell. They are pretty and cute, with almost the same faces. The 2 sisters couldn't help turning white when they saw the angry Riser, and they quickly covered their lips and dared not laugh anymore. Riser, you are still the same, still getting angry over the most foolish and small things, but bullying 2 cute little girls is not a gentleman's behavior. Humph, they are my peerage, you don't need to worry about them. You haven't concluded a contract yet, and they are not your peerage either. Shaking his head, Tenraku's voice made Riser's eyes sharpen. He already felt a strong provocation from this younger brother who has always been regarded as a stain and waste by him. The gaze of the entire venue was on them here, and Riser gradually calmed down from his anger and he angrily stared at Tenraku and said, Are you trying to challenge me? My incompetent younger brother. I had an agreement with Carlamine, so I had to finish it, and father and madam also agreed. Riser, do you dare to accept my challenge? Betting on honor, peace, and peerage, only those who win can get everything. Facing Riser fearlessly, Tenraku's voice caused an uproar in the entire venue. All the guests already know the identity of Tenraku, he is the fourth child of Phenex family, and they have also naturally heard of his underworld name, Waste. It is said that he has been out for many years and they did not expect him to challenge Riser when he came back. This is big news. Not only do humans like the excitement, but Devil also likes it, not to mention that it is not ordinary excitement. The battle between the Waste and the Genius of Underworld, the battle between brothers of House of the Phenex. It's exciting just thinking about it. Well, I take your challenge. Riser laughed, and then he stared sharply at Tenraku, his body exuding that fierce and violent aura. He has always been hailed as a genius and he became arrogant because of it. He has never been provoked so much. Since his incompetent younger brother wants to humiliate himself, he let Tenraku fully understand the gap between them. A trash that couldn't even awaken his bloodline does not understand the power represented by the Phoenix. Looking at Riser, a smile appeared on Tenraku's face. He has waited for this day for countless trials of life and death. Tenraku Unii-chan Riser Unii-chan. Looking at her two older brothers, Ravel had a complicated look on her face. Although she is more attached to the gentle and handsome Tenraku Unii-chan, Riser Unii-chan is actually very good to her. If she can, she really doesn't want to see her two older brothers fight. However, the smart girl knew that she could not stop them and they will not stop because of her. Her two older brothers must have a fight, and the only thing she could do was watch them and pray silently for them. Lord Phenex, are you really not going to stop your two sons? Seeing the development of the situation, Surtsk spoke silently. That's a matter between the brothers, I will let them sort it out by themselves. There was no expression on his resolute and proud face as Lord Phenex replied. However, as if thinking of something, Lord Phenex looked at the maid beside Surtsk again. Graphia, can I ask you, the strongest queen in the underworld, to be the referee for this duel? A slight wave of light flashed in the silver pupils, and Graphia cast a questioning look at Surtsk. After seeing Surtsk nodding helplessly, she walked out and bowed. It would be my pleasure, Lord Phenex. Now, Mai, what happened to His Highness Tenraku, tell us about it. Mai, who was watching to one side, suddenly felt that her kimono was being pulled by someone. She looked down and saw that it was sisters Isle and Nell. Although the twin girls have only recently joined, but they are loved by everyone because of their identical faces and lively personality, Mai gently stroked the foreheads of the two sisters and smiled. You want to know about His Highness Tenraku? I really want to know, please. Like a chicken pecking at rice, the two sisters kept nodding their heads. Since you want to know, let me tell you something about His Highness Tenraku. With a look of nostalgia on her face, Mai confided what she knew about Tenraku. The twin girls also listened very seriously, and their two big shiny eyes blinked from time to time. Everyone, I am the referee in this duel between the third son of the Phenex family, Riser Phenex, and the fourth son, Kamaya Tenraku. I am the servant of the Gremory family, Graphia. This duel will be held in a temporary split space. There are no rules or restrictions. Both props and weapons can be freely chosen and used indefinitely until one side concedes defeat and cannot fight again. There will only be one winner. A cold voice rang through the entire square through the diffusion of the magic array. At first, the venue was silent, and then the entire square was in an uproar. Since the ancient wars, the number of underworld devils has dropped to a very dangerous level. Fights between devils seldom occur, especially between pure-blooded devil, which is strictly prohibited, although it was later used to stimulate the growth of the new generation by inventing raiding games, but raiding games has many limitations. Although it is very exciting, it can't make people enjoy it, which is a pity. But there are no rules, no restrictions in this fight. Such a crazy duel hasn't appeared in the entire underworld for a long time. The whole venue was excited, and the voices of those voices went straight to the sky. What a beautiful sound, what a wonderful stage. In the different space, Tenraku and Riser were teleported in, and Riser laughed. Enjoying the wave of cheers, he was almost intoxicated. Unlike Riser's laughter, Tenraku's expression on one side was as calm as water, and there were no waves in his black eyes. My stupid younger brother, it's an honor for you to be able to stand on this wonderful stage with me. This is your first time, but it would also be your last time. His gaze fell on Tenraku, and Riser gave a cold smile. As the genius of House of the Phenex, he couldn't think of any reason why he would lose to a waste. Although this waste seems to look a little bit better after years of experience outside, but waste would always remain waste, which can never be changed. Riser, it's an honor for you, you will lose to me, I will take away your honor, peace, and peerage, but failure is not a bad thing for you, maybe it can make you grow a little bit. A smile appeared on his face, Tenraku replied. Don't be ashamed. Riser instantly got angry when he heard Tenraku. What he hates most is Tenraku's utterly nonchalant and calm appearance. It was as if Tenraku had taken everything for granted, it was as if the victory already belonged to him. How dare a useless waste look at him like that? The momentum of the two clashes, wind, and smoke are everywhere, and both of them are ready to fight. Chapter 33, Will Not Lose. Woot Asuka, there are so many people here. Hiding behind Tosca, feeling that someone was looking at him from time to time, Gasper cried out. Glancing at Gasper faintly, Tosca didn't bother to pay attention to this guy who didn't have any guts. A pair of beautiful eyes stared at the projection of the sky closely. Master Tenraku, you are invincible and you will never lose to anyone. Come on, let me see what you have learned outside these years. Looking at Tenraku with a cold look on his face, Riser said proudly, making no secret of his disdain for Tenraku. Shaking his head, Tenraku felt a little unspeakable subtlety in his heart. Riser is indeed a genius, this is an undeniable fact, but his weaknesses are also very obvious. If he was not so arrogant and conceited, perhaps he would not have lost to that Hyudo in the original book. However, this is a duel that will only conclude after a winner and loser have been made and there are no rules, so Tenraku did not intend to remind him. A sharp light flashed in his eyes, and the ability of demonic sword creation was instantly activated, and an ice-blue gorgeous longsword suddenly appeared in Tenraku's hands. There was a bit of cold air around the longsword, instantly freezing the surrounding ground. That's the demonic sword Diridax. Someone seemed to recognize the demonic sword in Tenraku's hand at the venue outside the separate space, and couldn't help exclaiming. Diridax, a demonic sword that possesses extremely cold freezing power, the legendary powerful demonic sword. No, the aura of the sword is a bit different, that's not the real Diridax. With great eyesight, Surtsk on the high seat saw the anomaly, but he couldn't help being surprised. Although it is just an imitation of Diridax, the power it exudes is not far from the original one. A touch of brilliance also appeared on Graphia's face next to him, but it was lost in a flash. She took a step forward and announced in that cold and awe-inspiring voice. Now, I announce that the duel begins. The whole venue cheered, and at the same time, Tenraku and Riser in the different space also started to move and rushed towards each other. Laylat. Click. With a staggered body, Tenraku bowed and held his sword while Riser had a painful look on his face, and then his entire figure was frozen into an ice sculpture. Everyone stared fiercely at the battle projection in the air, and the entire venue was so silent that one would be able to hear a needle fall. Was the Phenex family brothers' duel so fast that the winner was decided, and the genius brother was killed by the younger brother who was a waste? No, not so. Boom! A fire wave sword and the ice sculpture shattered, and the unscathed Riser appeared again. There was a huge cheer from the entire venue, and many people were shouting Riser's name. If you are at only this level then you can't beat me, my incompetent younger brother. Riser spoke to Tenraku in a ridiculously disdainful voice. No, I will win. Tenraku answered calmly even as he heard Riser's words. The color in his eyes was like electricity, and it was useless to say more, and the two moved again. The cry of a phoenix bird, the duel of ice and fire, at the moment when the two met, a shocking explosion sounded in the entire space. Boom! HNG HNG HNG! Sword energy crisscrossed, fire waves rolled, and the battle between Tenraku and Riser in a different space was going on fiercely. Tenraku waved the demonic sword in his hand, and Riser was the firework that controlled the phoenix. The two attacked each other without mercy. The fierce battle was so exciting that people shouted out, and the venue outside the space was full of exciting cheers. Boom! At a certain moment, Riser was barely swept by Tenraku's legs, and he shot out like a meteor and then hit the ground making a huge hole in it. But the next moment there was another high bird cry and the fire wave rushed into the sky, and the Riser with its wings on its back appeared in the air. Panting, Riser at this time has no longer the elegant and noble appearance as he did before, and his whole body is covered with slashed sword marks all over his body. His appearance looked extremely embarrassed. On the other hand, Tenraku is not injured at all and he looked the same as he did before. Everyone was in an uproar. In the previous battle, the genius brother was actually suppressed by the younger waste brother. Master Tenraku so amazing. So amazing! Master Tenraku, come on! With fiery light shining in the pupils, the twin girls named Isle and Nell cheered loudly. Carlamine was excited, Isabella was surprised, Swollen, Shuria, Burant, Cirrus, even Ubelina, who was standing in the front, had her beautiful purple lips slightly widened at this time, and her charming face was full of incredible emotions. Lord Riser was actually suppressed by His Highness Tenraku. How is this possible? The figure of the young man who used to wield the wooden sword alone could not help but appear in her mind, small but persistent. Ubelina couldn't help but raise a thought in her heart, maybe he can really create a miracle. Thinking of this, Ubelina's heart trembled and she came back to her senses. If it really becomes like that. How vulgar, how ugly, like a beast. The flames burned, and the scars on his body healed quickly, and Riser in the air looked angry and ferocious. Although he has also practiced some fighting skills, it is far from the swordsmanship that Tenraku has honed from countless life and death battles. In the previous close combat, he was basically suppressed by Tenraku. Although these injuries are nothing to Riser, they are regarded as a great shame by him. In front of his father and great Satan Lucifer, in front of the many underworld nobles, he, who was favored by the Phoenix, was actually suppressed. He couldn't even have imagined this kind of thing. Riser, go ahead. Whether it is vulgar or ugly, today I will show you what is truly powerful. With a proud and fearless pose, Tenraku is no longer willing to say anything. He will use facts and the sword in his hand to let Riser understand. Die, you bastard! With an angry expression on his face, magic power surged in Riser's body, and immediately, hundreds of fireballs were condensed by him. He raised his hand and threw them towards Tenraku below. HNG boom boom. The flame of the Phoenix is so powerful that even Tenraku would not stupidly choose to confront it in a head-on collision. His body flashed as he dodged the fireballs constantly, and for those he couldn't dodge, he cut them with his demonic sword. Shhyeeth! With a leap, Tenraku threw out several icy blue sword auras, but because of the long distance, they were all easily avoided by the Riser in the air. Die, die! With a mad laugh, Riser launched an increasingly fierce attack, and endless flames whizzed towards Tenraku. Although Tenraku was still able to resist at first, he finally couldn't resist. With a loud bang, Tenraku was drowned in endless flames. Tenraku Unii-chan! Ravel exclaimed, and the guests watching the game were also in an uproar. With such a fierce attack, even those present here might not be able to come out alive, not to mention that the Phenex family fourth son who was a waste. Not even looking at Tenraku's situation, everyone looked at Riser with a hint of respect. This is a world where strength is respected. Although Riser has just grown up, he has inherited the bloodline of the Phoenix, and he possesses great strength and is an out-and-out genius. There would be a place for him in the future of this world. Akeno, your sweetheart is in danger. On the high seat, Rias chuckled. Since that guy appeared, Akeno has looked like she was unwilling to even stay here, and Rias couldn't help feeling a little sour in her heart. At this moment, seeing Tenraku falling into a dangerous situation, Rias was extremely happy, and for a single second, even Riser's arrogant face was also pleasing to the eye. No, he will win. Shaking her head, Akeno had a firm expression on her face. From the moment she saw Tenraku, she knew that her Tenraku would never lose to anyone. Just because she was worried that someone would take away her good sister when he came back, Rias didn't look down on Tenraku, and she didn't say anything. Dropping her gaze into the battle projection in the air, the girl's pair of blue eyes also flickered with faint brilliance. She couldn't help but think of the figure who asked him to take Akeno away. Rias also looked forward to it a little. Kamaya Tenraku, let me see how you create a miracle. Chapter 34, Unlimited Blade Works. The flame dissipated, the vision became clear, and Tenraku's figure was revealed to everyone. Although Tenraku was panting slightly and he looked quite beaten up, but his whole body was covered with a thick layer of cold energy, which made him cut off most of the damage from the Phoenix flame. Riser did not expect that Tenraku would be able to bear his attack and he was a little surprised, but he gave a cold snort and said, "Weak, weak, too weak. You haven't even awakened our bloodline, you don't understand the power of Phoenix. Your existence will only put the name of Phenex to shame. Do you think you can shorten the gap between us with a little hard work? You who have no talent, and you who can't even deploy his own devil's wings, are not qualified to be my opponent." The flames turned into shape, and dozens of flame birds screamed while rushing towards Tenraku. HNG. Seeing Tenraku who can only dodge on the ground, the corner of Riser's mouth is raised, he already has a plan to win. The people who were seeing the fight in the different space also calmed down, and they naturally understood Riser's idea. In close combat, Riser was not an opponent of Tenraku at all, so he flew into the air with his strengths and circumvented his weaknesses, controlling the flames to continuously attack Tenraku from a distance. Tenraku, who couldn't awaken his bloodline and didn't even have devil wings, could only be tied to the ground. It was already a bit difficult for Tenraku to evade Riser's attacks. Even if he occasionally cuts out a few sword energy counterattacks, it is impossible for Riser to be injured by such an attack. To a certain extent, this is a despicable approach, but it was originally a duel ignoring the rules and restrictions, and Riser did nothing wrong. Tenraku couldn't awaken the bloodline, nor could he spread his devil's wings, these are his own sins. But Tenraku exhaled slightly, and he stared sharply at Riser in the air. Perhaps I don't have the talent, nor can I awaken my bloodline, I don't even have the most basic devil wings. But you can't deny me, no one can deny me, even the world can't deny me. Hermes boots. With that shocking declaration, Tenraku yelled, and the soles of his feet were suddenly equipped with 2 pairs of golden wings. With a look of surprise from Riser and everyone else, Tenraku leaped up and shot towards Riser in the air. The ice blue longsword in his hand also turned into a purple sword, and there was faint electric light bursting on the sword. Thunder Governance Ajavan. Boom. Under everyone's stunned gaze, Riser in the air was directly slashed by Tenraku. The fire waves soared into the sky, and the electric light overflowed, but soon the flames gathered back, condensed into the appearance of Riser. Impossible! Riser roared ferociously and was extremely embarrassed. Even his own attack just now took a heavy toll on him. Nothing is impossible, keep fighting, Riser. Kamaya Tenraku. HNG HNG HNG. HNG 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 boom boom. The duel continued, and the battle on the ground escalated into the battle in the sky. The 2 men turned into golden and the fiery streamer and they constantly met and chased each other in the air. The long sword in Tenraku's hand showed freezing ice for a while, then it released a violent thunder and lightning, and after a while, it erupted with fiery fire like a phoenix. At first, everyone who watched the game thought that Tenraku had a lot of demonic swords, but soon, some careful people discovered the anomaly. Tenraku does not own a lot of demonic swords, it is a sacred gear, he owns a sacred gear that can make demonic swords. And not only that, the 2 pairs of golden wings that helped him soar in the air are also sacred gears. The escalation battle is extremely fierce, not to mention that Devil itself belongs to a militant race. Many spectators can't help but burst into blood-curdling screams and shout loudly. Lord Phenex above the main seat was also looking at the battle projection in the sky, looking at Tenraku who was fighting Riser on a PAR, and his resolute and majestic face also showed his shock. There are surprises, excitement. But it is more gratifying. Tamako, our child is really not a waste. Not only Lord Phenex, but his daughter Revel, Akeno, Rias, and Yubelina who were watching the battle at this time also had the same shocked expression on their faces. Even the eyes of a certain pair of twin girls exploded with intense heat, and a strong worship. Don't want to admit it, Riser absolutely doesn't want to admit that Tenraku, who has always been regarded as a waste and stain on the family name by him, has the strength comparable to him, and it makes him feel fear. Die. It was another collision, and they moved apart. Regardless of everything, Riser desperately urged the magic power in his body. With a loud bird cry, a huge flame bird rose into the sky. It was Undying Holy Bird. Phenex. Although this Phenex was only transformed by Riser's magic power and it was far from the real Phoenix, but it was also Riser's strongest attack. He has lost his patience, he wants to end this battle quickly. Tenraku was locked, and the huge flame bird whizzed towards him. Unable to avoid the attack, Tenraku was hit by Undying Holy Bird, and his entire figure was drowned in the sea of fire. Boom! There was a loud blast of the sky, the dazzling brilliance was like a small round of sun, the violent energy continued to spread around, the entire temporarily split space was constantly trembling, it was as if it was about to collapse at any time. This is the strongest attack of Riser Phenex as the superior devil. Except for women like Tosca and Akeno, not many people think that Tenraku can take up such an attack. Although he will lose the duel, as an illegitimate child who can't even awaken his bloodline, Tenraku's performance today has far exceeded their expectations, at the very least, he can wash away the name of being the waste of the Underworld in the future. It is also interesting to say that another famous Underworld waste, the child of House of Baal who also did not inherit the magic power from his family, but with his body, he is comparable to a beast and he has a powerful fighting spirit. His fame rose against the sky and not only did he regain the House of Baal's name but he also became one of the 4 great Satans in the new generation. Although the Phenex family is not as defying as the House of Baal, they are still very good. Many so-called geniuses of the same age do not have his strength. Destiny, this thing. Just when many people signed and thought that the duel was almost over, the flames in the different space finally faded out, and their vision became clear again. However, the next moment, a scene that shocked countless people appeared. Tenraku hasn't fallen yet. Tenraku was floating in the air, shrouded by a spherical barrier. Although the barrier was already full of cracks, it actually blocked Riser's strongest attack. Tosca's beautiful eyes flashed beside Gasper, she has a proud look on her face. Yes, the sacred gear that released the barrier is the inherent barrier that Tenraku captured from her at the time. There were ups and downs and the situation reversed. After a short period of silence, the entire venue was in an uproar. No one knows how many times this has happened today. Impossible. This is impossible. Seeing Tenraku who was still intact under his strongest attack, Riser's entire face was almost distorted. Riser couldn't tell whether it was sacred gear, whether it was demonic sword before, or the golden wings, or the barrier now. Sacred gear, why does this waste have so many sacred gears? An obviously impossible thing is happening, and Riser was going crazy because of it. The barrier dissipated, but Tenraku had a calm expression on his face, and then he slowly rose to the same height as Riser. Riser, this duel is almost over. Now that you have attacked me with your strongest attack, I will attack you with mine. Saying some inexplicable things and under everyone's gaze, grey whirlpools appeared around Tenraku, and then a handle of demonic sword slowly stretched out of the whirlpool. Although they didn't know what Tenraku's moves are, Riser is feeling an instinctively perceived danger. He hasn't thought of any way to deal with it. In the next moment, Tenraku's cold voice resounded in the sky. Although this is not my strongest attack, you might as well take it as such. Forbidden move. Unlimited blade works. Chapter 35, Final winner. Lie. Many demonic swords with a cold beam flew out from the grey vortexes and struck the sky towards Riser. His body was stiff, his pupils shrank sharply as he looked at the sword which was roaring towards him. At this moment Riser felt something that he had rarely felt. Fear. What? HNG boom boom. There was no escape, Riser was instantly swallowed by the swords. Although Riser, the offspring of the Phoenix, also inherited the immortal ability, every time he healed and reborn, there would be an attacking demonic sword to penetrate him. Healing, piercing an infinite loop commenced. Looking at Riser, who was constantly screaming through the projection, the VIPs who watched the game opened their mouths and were speechless. Balance breaker. Surtsk's on the high seat also showed a look of surprise. Although the duel between Tenraku and Riser was like a fight between two children with his strength, Tenraku gave him too much surprise today. Not only did he have a lot of sacred gear, but he had also reached the balance breaker, which is the so-called forbidden move. One must know that this is not the time when the forbidden moves are as many as the dog on the street, where there are many sacred gear in the later period of the original series. There are not many people who own sacred gears, and there are very few who can perform this forbidden move. A sacred gear owner who has reached this state in which he can attack with his forbidden move, he is many times rarer than those ordinary sacred gear owners. They are often attracted by major organizations and forces as soon as they appear. After thinking about all the information in his mind, Surtsk's eyes flashed a sharp light, and his eyes met Grafia beside him, and then the two nodded invisibly. It's really surprising and amazing. If they didn't see it with their own eyes, they would find it hard to believe that the legendary Sacred Gear Plunder person whom the angels and church hated was the fourth child of the Phenex family. Grafia also looked at Tenraku in the aerial projection. For the first time, she had some emotions in those cold eyes. The Underworld's strongest queen seemed to be interested in Tenraku. In the different space, Tenraku is floating in the air, and there are hundreds of grey vortices around him, and demonic swords continuously shoots out of the vortex. Each sacred gear will continue to evolve as its host becomes stronger, and when the sacred gear owner's longing and wish drastically reverse the flow of this world, the sacred gear will be able to reach this forbidden move. Generally speaking, it is very difficult for a sacred gear awakener to achieve the forbidden move. This requires not only talent but also opportunities. But Tenraku is a little different. With his sacred gear plunder, He has unparalleled aptitude in controlling sacred gears. Forbidden move, which is difficult for others to reach, is not so difficult for him. Take the current situation for example, Tenraku has already reached the forbidden move with several of his sacred gears. Unlimited Blade Works is the forbidden move developed by Tenraku from the Sacred Gear demonic sword creation. It refers to the moves of the hero and a partner of justice in a certain world. Even in terms of forbidden move, this attack is absolutely powerful. The continuously connected demonic sword attacked Riser, piercing and destroying his body again and again, and the painful screams made many spectators feel a chill in their backs. I am Riser Phenex, the existence that is favored by the Phoenix, you can't kill me, Kamaya Tenraku. What? Roaring ferociously, Riser's hard-working figure was instantly swallowed by many swords. Tenraku floating in the air shook his head. Riser was still as arrogant and as prideful as he used to be. He was already close to the limit but he is still stubbornly holding on. Of course, in some respects, maybe this is his advantage and it is not necessarily a bad thing. Although, if it continued like this, Riser's magic power would be exhausted sooner or later, and the victory would be his, but Tenraku did not intend to do so. Anyway, he has already caused Riser to suffer and taught him a lesson, so he would just give him something more profound to think about. The whirlpools dissipated and the attack stopped. When everyone was wondering what Tenraku was going to do, Tenraku slowly pushed one palm toward the sky. There seems to be an invisible power brewing in the dark, and the grey sky in the different spaces covered with a layer of purple energy, looking just like the sky outside the underworld. Under everyone's gaze, Tenraku slowly said, "Riser, you have always been proud of your bloodline and proud of being the offspring of the Phoenix. But, today, I will let you know that people without bloodline can become stronger, and people without talent can also stand at the top of the world. Take it, forbidden move. Cloud of swords fall from heaven." Hiss. Under everyone's astonished look, a purple sword light descended from the sky. Riser's magic power was overdrawn and his face was pale. He had just recovered his body and was ready to fight to the death with Tenraku, but when he raised his head, he just saw the sword light that was shooting down at him. No. Boom. Riser unwillingly let out a roar and his figure was instantly swallowed by sword light, and his body was teleported out of the space in a vague shape, and a shocking explosion also sounded in the entire space. Click. Just like the sound of broken glass, the energy generated by the explosion was so huge that it collapsed the entire space. At the moment when the space completely collapsed, Tenraku's figure disappeared in a vague light. There was silence in the venue, and everyone looked at Riser and Tenraku who were teleported out on the stage. "I haven't lost, I haven't." His magic power was overdrawn and he was hit hard, but Riser was still struggling to get up while staring at Tenraku with an unwilling look on his face. However, in the next moment, Riser found that he couldn't move, his hands, feet, neck, his whole body couldn't move. It was as if it had been frozen by something, except for the fact that his ability to think was still there, he could not even feel his own existence. "Riser, don't you understand? You have already lost, completely lost. If I just want to beat you, I have 100 quicker and easier ways, but that's too boring." With evil light gleaming in his eyes, Tenraku used Sacred Gear's power on Riser. Evil eye that stops the world forbidden Baylor view. Seeing Riser whose expression was frozen and unwilling, Tenraku's mouth was curved slightly, and he whispered, "Now, do you finally understand the gap between us?" Although his body was frozen, Riser could clearly hear Tenraku's voice. What an irony, he once said these same words arrogantly to Tenraku, but now, Tenraku had applied these words to himself. Riser only felt that he lost all his fighting spirit in an instant, he lost completely. Tenraku disarmed Evil Eye's ability, and Riser, who suffered severe physical and mental injuries, fell to the ground and fainted. "It's over, this battle is won by Tenraku." At the same time, Graphia's cold voice rang again from the entire venue. "Now, I declare that the final winner. Kamaya Tenraku." Chapter 36, Peerage. Kamaya Tenraku. 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 A huge cheer erupted from the entire venue, and the wave-like voice called Tenraku's name over and over again. This is a world where strength is respected. In the past, Tenraku was a trash that couldn't awaken his bloodline and he couldn't even inherit his surname, so no one paid any attention to him and they just didn't take his existence to their heart. At most, he was just a topic of laughter after dinner. But now it's different. Tenraku has proved to them with facts that he is no longer the same waste that he once was, He has already possessed a powerful force, and has the qualifications to gain their respect and recognition. From now on, no one will call Tenraku a waste, because if Tenraku is considered a waste, then they don't know how much waste is in this world. The former Underworld waste duo has become history, and perhaps they will be called the miracle of Underworld from tomorrow. Whether it is the one from the House of Baal or the one from the Phenex family, they are truly miracles. Did it, he finally did it. Akeno on the high platform was already in tears, but there was a smile from the heart on those tearful cheeks. Her Tenraku finally did it. Rias next to her also had a complex expression on her face and she couldn't return to her senses for a long time. It was hard to imagine that the proud figure currently standing on the platform was the ordinary and small boy who couldn't even protect the people he cherished and had to ask her for help. He may really be a miracle. Listening to the waves of praise and cheers, Tenraku on the stage was extremely calm and his eyes fell to the distant sky. With countless pains and efforts, he finally took this step. But this is not enough. He will become stronger. He will go further. He will stand taller. One day, he wants this day to be marked as a day where he would not be forgotten by anyone again. He wants this land. He wants the gods and monsters to worship for him. No one knows what arrogant ambition is hidden in the heart of this proud yet peaceful figure at this time. Unii-chan, so good Tenraku Unii-chan. Ravel was so excited that she was a little incoherent. Thank you, Ravel. Touching the girl's forehead, Tenraku smiled. Yes, but, Riser Unii-chan thinking of something, Ravel looked sad again. The fainted Riser has been carried away to get treatment, but she still has some concerns. Her older brother lost the duel in front of their father, the great Satan Lucifer, and so many underworld nobles. Riser must have been very shocked. However, instead of seeing Tenraku Unii-chan defeated by Riser Unii-chan, Ravel still prefers to see the ending that has happened now. Don't worry, he is a descendant of Phenex, there will be nothing wrong with him. If you are still worrying then go take care of him. Tenraku comforted. Okay. Responding softly, Ravel took the hem of her dress and was about to leave, but after taking a few steps, she stopped suddenly. Tenraku Unii-chan, you look the most handsome and strong today. Her cheeks flushed, and after speaking, the girl fled and ran away. For a moment, Tenraku chuckled and shook his head. This girl. Your Highness Tenraku, this is Devil's chess piece. Holding the delicate piece, a waiter spoke to him in a respectful and authentic tone. After the ancient war, many of the 72 pillars of the Devil family that was the backbone of the Underworld have been cut off. In order to enhance Devil's combat power and restore the power of Underworld, a set of magic chess system was developed by the current Great Satan Beelzebub using chess pieces as a template, namely, they are the so-called Devil pieces or Evil pieces. Devil pieces can reincarnate creatures of other races into Devil, and grant corresponding power with the attribute of the piece they were reincarnated with. Even in the entire Underworld, there are not many who have Evil pieces. Only the upper class and high class Devil are qualified to get it as it is very precious. Nodding towards the waiter, Tenraku turned his gaze to the Ubelina and others on the side. Carlamine, would you like to be my knight and be in my peerage? When he reached Carlamine's body, Tenraku asked. My sword is the sword of the Lord, Carlamine will follow you to death. They had agreed upon this a long time ago, and Carlamine did not hesitate to offer her knight's position to Tenraku on one knee. Isabella, Swillen, Burant, Cirrus, how about you? Tenraku said again, chanting the names of the girls. I'm willing. Without any objections, the girls also made their own choices. They themselves are pieces cultivated by the Phenex family, and they have been convinced by Tenraku in the previous duel. Compared to the proud Lord Riser, they are willing to choose the gentler, handsome, and stronger Tenraku as their master. Tenraku nodded, except for Ubelina and the twin girls, almost everyone has agreed. You are Isle and Nell, you are just as cute as Ravel was when she was a kid. Tenraku gently rubbed the foreheads of the two little girls with a smile on his face. Without the slightest resistance, the two girls also showed a look of surprise and said. Master Tenraku, do you know us too? They have heard about Tenraku from Mai and witnessed the duel between Tenraku and Riser. The two sisters now have a fanatical adoration of Tenraku. Ah, of course, I know you, are you willing to be in my peerage? Tenraku smiled and replied. In his previous life, when he was watching high school DxD anime, the chainsaw-wielding loli who chased after Hyudo while slashing and hacking left a very deep impression on Tenraku. We are willing. Two pairs of big eyes flashed with brilliance, and as expected, the two sisters also agreed to join his peerage. With his mouth raised slightly, Tenraku turned his gaze to the last figure. Yubelina, how about you? Her heart trembled and Yubelina sighed slightly and said. You have achieved this level, do I still have the right to refuse you? Yubelina is willing to surrender and follow you till my death, master. Putting down the magic staff in her hand, Yubelina also landed on one knee, and then lowered her proud head in front of Tenraku. Yubelina had once said that she would only follow the real strong, and apparently, the current Tenraku is strong in her eyes. Looking at the women surrendering in front of him, Tenraku felt a strange feeling in his heart. Although it is a little strange, Tenraku is very clear that this is the pleasure of conquering. It makes people sink, but it also makes people obsessed with it. Without speaking any nonsense, Tenraku gave the women corresponding pieces according to their respective characteristics and concluded a contract with them. However, the total number of Yubelina and girls is only 14, and one piece of bishop remains. Tenraku looked to Tosca on one side and said. Tosca, would you like to be in my peerage too? Yes, Master Tenraku. Tosca agreed without the slightest objection, she has been following Tenraku for a long time. Even without the contract and peace, Tenraku has long become her home and her master. Melting the peace into her body, the girl became Tenraku bishop. At this point, Tenraku's peerage is full and they are all here. Queen, Yubelina, known as the powerful bomb queen. Have all the abilities of pieces except for the pawns and the king. Bishop 1, Tosca, has Sacred Gear Inherent Barrier, a beautiful girl with white hair, a survivor of the Holy Sword Project. Bishop 2, Mai, has powerful magic power and she is good at using various auxiliary magic, a girl in kimono like Yamato Nadeshiko. With powerful magic power, they are his companions and supporters. Knight 1, Carlamine, the proud armored female knight, the user of the sword. Knight 2, Cirrus, a cold-spirited warrior who wields a huge sword. With extremely fast speed, they are the vanguard on the battlefield. Rook 1, Swollen, a beautiful girl in a cheongsam, a Chinese martial artist, she is no less powerful than a queen. Rook 2, Isabella, a beautiful soldier who is not inferior to any men, a master of leg skills, and boxing. With strong attack and defense power, they can use the special effects of castling. PAWN 1, Shuria, a magic user and a beautiful female dancer. PAWN 2, Maliu, a magic user and the combat maid with orange hair. PAWN 3, Burant, a magic user and a brunette combat maid. PAWN 4, Myra, a blue-haired petite girl, possesses the proud skills of Bajutsu. Pawn 5 and 6, Ni and Li, beautiful and cute, blue-haired and red-haired Nikomata girls. Pawn 7 and 8, Isle and Nell, Chainsaw Loli, lively Gemini. With the special skill of promotion, they can be promoted to any rank other than king in the enemy camp identified by the king. Looking at Tenraku's huge and luxurious peerage group, countless male devils in the venue showed envy and jealousy. What kind of peerage group is this? It is clearly a harem. Tenraku naturally didn't know what the envious male devils were thinking, but even if he knew it, he wouldn't care. The foundation of the Phenex family is not comparable to everyone. My god, Tenraku-sama, can I also be your peerage? When he walked to Tenraku's side, Gasper looked expectantly weak. Taking a look at this kid who is still so unlucky no matter how he teaches, Tenraku shook his head. No, there are no more pieces. Woo, why is this? Deeply shocked, Gasper suddenly felt like he was abandoned by Lord Tenraku, and his pitiful appearance immediately attracted more ardent eyes. Chapter 37, Choice. In the hall, Duke Phenex and Sertsk's are sitting in the upper seat, and there are three women Grafia, Rias and Akeno next to them. Tenraku stood in the middle of the hall, and behind Tenraku were Yubelina and others who had just concluded a contract with him. Tenraku-kun, I'm sorry to disturb you at this time, but there are some things that I must confirm with you. Looking at Tenraku, Sertsk spoke. I will answer any question Lord Satan has to the best of my ability. But do I have to answer even if it is personal to me? Duke Phenex on one side spoke lightly. Yes. With his eyes flickering, Tenraku had already expected such development and just nodded calmly. Tenraku-kun, in the previous duel, except for your sword skills, you used Sacred Gear's power, right? Everyone's eyes are on Tenraku, and Sertsk's words are also an issue that everyone cares about. Yes, demonic sword creation, Hermes boots and inherent barrier, they are all sacred gear. Without denying anything, Tenraku faithfully replied. Sacred gear's power is very obvious, and Tenraku knows that it is impossible to hide it from others. In addition, he has plundered a lot of sacred gear over the years, and many organizations and forces have already focused on him. They can find out about him as long as they are serious. As one of the four great Satan, Surtsk clearly knows this, and the reason for him asking this is just to hear Tenraku admit it himself. Except for the Duke Phenex, Surtsk, Grafia, and Tosca, who knew about Tenraku and remained calm, Tenraku's peerage and Rias' peerage all looked surprised. As they all know, a person is usually given only one sacred gear by God. At least there has been no natural multiple sacred gear owner, so for Tenraku to have so many sacred gears. How did you do it? Surtsk asked the question that he really cared about, and everyone else stared at Tenraku, waiting for his answer. Lying in front of the great Satan would be stupid. So, Tenraku sighed in his heart and knew that he couldn't hide it anymore. However, he does not need to hide now. I own a sacred gear that can plunder other sacred gears from their users. Tenraku's voice was not loud, but it fell into the ears of those present, and it was no less than an explosion. He can plunder other people's sacred gears. Is there even such a sacred gear? The last thing you used was sacred gear? Yes, that is holy sword, aim no Murakumo. No wonder there was a holy aura, it turned out to be a holy sword. Isn't that holy sword already destroyed? As long as I collect all the fragments by plundering them all, I can restore its original strength. That's good. Surtsk and Tenraku asked and answered each other's questions, and as others could guess his sacred gear's abilities even if he didn't say it, so Tenraku was generous and calm and had nothing to hide. Of course, as for Sacred Gear Plunder, it also gave him unparalleled ability to control sacred gears and some other hidden abilities. Tenraku would naturally not stupidly say it too. With the end of the questioning, Surtsk was surprised, Duke Phenex's fists were clenched, and even Grafia on one side showed that some expression on her face. As Tenraku's peerage and Rias, they were already shocked and stunned. Looting sacred gears, even if a sacred gear is destroyed, Tenraku can collect all the fragments and restore its power. What a terrifying sacred gear, it is enough to compare with the legendary Longinus tools that destroy God. No, listening to Tenraku, as long as it is a sacred gear, even Longinus class sacred gears can be plundered. Unbelievable, this is completely outside the specifications, and it is not an exaggeration to be called the supreme sacred gear. Yubelina and the girls behind Tenraku stared at Tenraku fiercely. If they admired Tenraku before, then they absolutely worship him now. At the same time, the people present here couldn't help feeling sarcasm in their hearts. The man with such a scary sacred gear has always been regarded as a waste. What a joke! Tenraku-kun, you really are. Surtsk wanted to say something, only to find that he had nothing to say. He couldn't help but smile. With such a terrifying sacred gear, JT would not be an exaggeration to say that Tenraku has the most perverted terrifying talent in the history of this world. Although this terrifying talent has not fully grown up yet. Surtsk-sama, do you have any other questions? With a calm look on his face, Tenraku spoke as if he had just said a trivial thing. Shaking his head, Surtsk replied. I am done, but Tenraku, you have plundered a lot of sacred gears, which has caused dissatisfaction from the church and fallen angels. Please pay attention to them in the future and don't just loot any sacred gear. Please think about the consequences before you do any plundering. If Tenraku is allowed to plunder this way, sooner or later, the world will become chaotic, but he cannot be stopped from plundering, and Surtsk can only helplessly warn him. Yes, Surtsk-sama. Tenraku nodded and said that he remembered his warning, but only he knew if he was being sincere or not. As if thinking of something, Surtsk glanced at Rias on one side and saw that the girl was in shock and had not recovered at all. An inexplicable smile appeared at the corner of his mouth as he spoke. Actually, besides coming to attend Riser's coming-of-age ceremony, there is another important thing. Our Gremory family and the Phenex family have made an agreement long ago. In the future, one of the offspring of both parties will get married and join both of their families. Rias is naturally the one from our family. Tenraku, how about you signing a marriage agreement with Rias on behalf of the Phenex family? After hearing Surtsk's words, Rias, Akeno, and Yubelina were all stunned, and Rias stood up abruptly. Older brother. Rias was really mad at her older brother. She couldn't help looking at Akeno, who was also looking at her with a sad expression on her face. Rias suddenly felt like being a trashy woman, but she was definitely the one who was wronged here. Why, Rias, don't you like Tenraku-kun? Looking at Rias' embarrassed look, Surtsk touched his chin with a normal expression on his face and continued. This is not easy. The eldest son and second son of the Phenex family already have their own engagement partners, so Rias' engagement partners can only be chosen between Tenraku-kun and Riser-kun. I like Tenraku-kun very much, and there would be no problem with our father, but if Rias-chan doesn't like him, then we can choose Riser-kun. After hearing the words of her older brother, Rias became even more anxious. No way. Rias doesn't want to marry someone so early, she had dreamed of finding someone to love by herself. But if she has to choose now for the sake of the family, Rias can barely accept Tenraku, but she would definitely not choose Riser. Rias, tell me about your choice. The smile on Surtsk's face became even more wide as the cute and embarrassed expression of his younger sister's face was hard to see. And not only Surtsk's, but even Grafia on one side looked at Rias' embarrassed and flustered look at this moment, and a narrow smile appeared on that beautiful face. Feeling that she was being looked at one by one, Rias knew that she had to make a choice, whether it was for the sake of the individual or the friendship of the two families. Now is not the time for her willfulness. Finally, under everyone's attention, Rias gave out and made her choice. I choose Tenraku. Chapter 38, Reminder. To resist the shame, she almost mustered all her courage to speak. After saying this, Rias felt that she had no strength all over her body. Moreover, she is with a guilty conscience, so she did not dare to look at Akeno. Since Rias has made the choice, let's decide it like this. It just so happens that I like Tenraku very much. Lord Phenex, you don't have any objections, right? With a successful smile on the corner of his mouth, Surtsk looked at Duke Phenex on one side. No problem, we can let them get married when Rias becomes an adult. Duke Phenex replied calmly. So, Tenraku-kun, do you have any questions? Surtsk turned his gaze to Tenraku again. With a twitch of his mouth, Tenraku thought in his heart that the family lord and Satan had already decided on the matter, so what could he say? Although Tenraku has some dislikes for this kind of arranged marriage because of his mother's relationship, Duke Phenex has never forced Tenraku to do anything since he was a child. Lord Phenex didn't say anything even when he wanted to live in the human world or interact with Shida's family. One can say that he is very indulgent to Tenraku. It is the first time that he had undoubtedly taken charge of him like this. He could roughly understand what his father was thinking and Tenraku sighed in his heart, but in the end, he didn't say anything to refuse. I have no problem here, Lord Surtsk. Okay. That's it. When Rias graduates from school and becomes an adult, I will let you two get married right away. Surtsk laughed as he seemed to be in a good mood while looking at Rias, who was already embarrassed. Lord Phenex, there are still many things that need to be dealt with in the territory. Since there is nothing for me to do here, then we will leave first. Okay, come here often if you have time, Surtsk. Surtsk said goodbye, and Duke Phenex nodded. Tenraku-kun, please visit us if you have time. The Gremory house welcomes you anytime. Slapping Tenraku on the shoulder, Surtsk nodded towards everyone, and then took Grafia and Rias before leaving. At the moment when they were going to go, Grafia suddenly looked at Tenraku, and those silver cold eyes cast a deep look at Tenraku. However, it was fleeting, and Grafia quickly passed Tenraku and followed Surtsk out. Tenraku frowned. He is not arrogant enough to think that the strongest queen of the underworld would be interesting to him, but that gaze made Tenraku feel unforgettable and he didn't understand what it meant. We are waiting for you outside. While Tenraku was still thinking about what happened just now, Rias and Akeno also passed by him, and Rias' very annoying voice rang in his ears. He nodded slightly, and after confirming that Tenraku had heard it, Rias snorted and walked out together with Akeno. Suddenly, only Duke Phenex, Tenraku, Yubelina and the girls were left in the room. Looking at Tenraku, there was a little silence, and the Duke Phenex on the high seat finally spoke. When did you awaken your Sacred Gear's power? I awakened it when Mother was still alive, Tenraku replied. The whole room fell into silence again and Duke Phenex on the high seat looked on with a complicated look on his face, and he felt that he couldn't see through his child now. No, maybe he didn't see through from the beginning. Your Sacred Gear and identity have been exposed. In the future, pay attention to those guys from the Angel and Church faction. If you can't stop them, then come back to the family. I know. Go back if you have nothing else to say, don't let your fiancé and that girl wait for a long time. Yes. The conversation between father and son was as short as ever. Tenraku nodded without saying anything else, and walked out of the hall. Yubelina and the other girls bowed and immediately followed Tenraku. However, just as Tenraku and the girls were about to walk out of the hall, the voice of Duke Phenex suddenly came. "That's Xerxes, be careful of him from now on." Not understanding what this means, being careful about Xerxes Demon King's identity or of his unknown strength. When Tenraku looked back, Duke Phenex had closed his eyes and seemed not wanting to say more. In the end, Tenraku could only remember the words in his heart with doubts. After coming out of the hall, a waiter told Tenraku that Rias and her queen were waiting for him in the living room. Tenraku took Yubelina and others and prepared to go there, but on the way, they happened to meet Madame Phenex, who was taking care of Riser. "Madame." Tenraku stopped and spoke, and Yubelina and the girls behind him bowed and saluted. "Ah, little Tenraku has grown up. If Tamako knew about it, she would have been proud of you." Beautiful and noble, the Lady Phenex looked at Tenraku and said softly with some emotion in her voice. The words from his stepmother warmed Tenraku's heart, and at the same time, he felt a little apologetic. "Sorry, madam, about Riser." Her own child was beaten like that by Tenraku in the duel. Any mother would feel distressed, even if Lady Phenex resented him from now on, it would not be surprising, and that was the reward he deserved. But Tenraku never regretted what he did. Riser's life has been going too smoothly since he was a child. This setback is a good thing for him. You don't need to take it to heart. I also heard about the marriage contract. The Gremory princess is a good girl, you must cherish her and not let her down. Go ahead, don't let them wait for long." To Tenraku's astonishment, Madame Phenex shook her head, not blaming him for Riser, and instead she comforted him. "Yes, mother." Tenraku shouted before he became stunned, but since he shouted out, he couldn't take it back. Tenraku smiled bitterly, and it seemed that he would have to change his mind in the future. After giving another gesture towards Madame Phenex, Tenraku took Yubelina and the other girls and continued towards the living room. What Tenraku didn't know was that there were tears in Madame Phenex's eyes, and she also had a small smile on her face. That child is finally willing to call her mother. Chapter 39, Reason. Tenraku, Yubelina and the girls just entered the room, and a figure ran over and hugged Tenraku. "Tenraku, Tenraku, my Tenraku." This figure was holding Tenraku tightly, as if afraid of losing him again. The figure is Akeno. "I let you wait for so long, Akeno." Looking at the tearful girl, Tenraku also hugged her tightly, and his voice was full of apology and thoughts. The pair of teenagers who wandered around with each other finally met again at this moment after many years of parting. Obviously, both of them have changed a lot, but they don't feel the slightest strangeness with each other. Time didn't dilute their feelings, on the contrary, they became stronger. "Humph, when will you two let go of each other?" Rias hummed softly, with a hint of sourness in her tone. Yubelina stroked her lips and chuckled. Akeno quickly let go of Tenraku and wiped her tears to control her emotions, but there were still 2 blushes floating on her cheeks that couldn't dissipate. Touching his nose, Tenraku felt a little embarrassed. Not to mention the relationship between Akeno and himself, Rias has just signed a marriage contract with himself, and now the relationship between the three has become a bit delicate. "Rias, thank you for taking care of Akeno over the years." After calming his mind, Tenraku spoke. Tenraku entrusted Akeno to Rias, and when he first saw Akeno before, Tenraku knew the growth of the girl. The little girl who used to know little of her abilities was not the same now. "I'm afraid Rias has spent much time on her in these years." "Hey, Akeno is my queen and of my peerage, I naturally have to take care of her. There was someone who just handed Akeno to me, and then left for so many years at once. He was really irresponsible." Thinking of Akeno's way of thinking about someone day and night over the years, Rias felt even sorer, and she spoke with a hint of irony in her tone. Ara, Rias, are you getting jealous again?" Taking one of Rias' arms, Akeno squinted and smiled. Akeno is not a delicate woman, and only in front of Tenraku can she show her weak side. Her stable emotions returned to their usual appearances, so why would she let go of this opportunity to tease Rias? I am not." A trace of panic flashed in her eyes and Rias turned her head to the side, but if one looked carefully, they would find that the girl's face also had a light red glow. "I do owe Akeno too much, and I will use my life to make up for her in the future. But I didn't hand over Akeno to you casually, I handed her over to you because it was, and the facts have been proven, I didn't read you wrong." Tenraku replied with a chuckle. Akeno and Rias are destined companions, which is why Tenraku trusted Akeno to Rias at the beginning. However, Tenraku did not notice the ambiguity in his words, and only reacted when he saw the strange look in Akeno, Yubelina, and others' eyes. Well, he can't explain this kind of thing. You, what are you talking about? You talk as if you know me well. Don't think that you can fool around in this way. I will naturally have you make up for what Akeno owes you in the future, but even then I will not return Akeno to you again. This is what I said at the beginning. Blushing like blood, Rias only felt that she hadn't encountered so many embarrassing things since childhood. But thinking about Akeno, she immediately said strongly. Akeno is now her queen and is her peerage, she is her most important sister and companion, even Tenraku, who has a deep bond with Akeno, will never be able to take her away from her. Akeno next to her also put a smile on her face. Rias cared about her so much that she was very moved, but if she was always with Rias, she couldn't return to Tenraku, which also made the girl's heart feel very tangled. But at this moment, Tenraku's voice rang out again. Don't worry, Rias, I won't take Akeno, Akeno will always be in your peerage and be your queen. You are now studying at Qia Academy in the human world? I should go there too in a few days. I have been training for a long time now, and occasionally, I also want to experience the campus life of ordinary people. After hearing Tenraku's words, Rias secretly breathed out a sigh of relief, and Akeno's eyes sparkled. If Tenraku also goes to Qia Academy, then wouldn't it mean that she can see Tenraku often without leaving Rias' side in the future? This is really the best of both worlds. Rias? Akeno looked at Rias with a hint of eagerness in her eyes. Qia Academy is secretly controlled by our Gremory family in the House of Phenex. I will help you arrange for your transfer. Whenever you and your peers want to come to school, you can come directly. When it comes to Tenraku, Akeno gives out such a look which makes Rias want to really choke Akeno, but she still relents in the end. Tenraku also nodded. Akeno's affairs are good, then it is time to say another thing. Rias, what are you going to do about our marriage contract? As soon as Tenraku spoke, Rias' face that had just recovered was instantly red again, and Akeno, Yubelina, and the other girls also turned their eyes on them. It's only because of my family that I have agreed, don't think anything else. As if for fear of Tenraku's misunderstanding, Rias anxiously said. Tenraku also nodded and said. It's the same with me. In that case, let's break the marriage contract. Tenraku's words were not unbelievable, but the whole room descended into silence. The girls, Akeno and Yubelina, were surprised, even Rias thought she had an auditing hallucination. What did Tenraku just say, to break the marriage contract with her? This is unbelievable, but Rias, who reacted, burst into endless anger. Kamaya Tenraku, are you looking down on me? Rias' beautiful face was full of anger. As the eldest daughter and next head of the Gremory family, she is an idol pursued by countless people, whether in school or in the underworld. And now she has been insulted in a way that has never happened before. Master Tenraku. Tenraku, you. Both Yubelina and Akeno looked at Tenraku with puzzled looks on their faces. Tenraku did say a little too much just now. The marriage contract between them was created by Great Satan Lucifer and Duke Phenex, it cannot be dismissed so casually. I haven't finished speaking yet, why are you becoming so excited? Seeing the reaction of Rias and the girls, Tenraku couldn't help being speechless for a while. Humph, then I will listen to what else you have to say. With a sneer, Rias looked at Tenraku sharply. She will forgive him if Tenraku can really give a reason today, if he can't say anything. She will let him know that the women in Gremory's family are not so easy to bully. Under Rias' fierce gaze, and in the incomprehensible look of the women, Tenraku finally told his reason. Chapter 40, Defeat. Rias, you are the princess of the Gremory family, you are noble, beautiful, and excellent. Whether in the underworld or in the human world, many people admire you. I am also a normal boy, and I also like such excellent women. This is an undeniable fact. But I am Kamaya Tenraku. I will pursue the person I like. To possess. To plunder. I still disdain to get you through family marriage. Rias, is my reason enough? As Tenraku's voice fell, all the girls in the room were shocked. Akeno's eyes flickered, and Yubelina and others looked at Tenraku with an endless heated gaze. Such self-confidence, domineering, and gentle attitude, this is their master. Rias on one side has already become dumbfounded. Besides being ashamed or embarrassed, there was no reason for her to be angry. What this guy said is too straightforward. However, What made Rias feel unbelievable is that Tenraku said this so bluntly to her, but she didn't feel angry at all. On the contrary, she felt that his words were quite reasonable. Looking at Tenraku's confident, serious, and arrogant expression, Rias also felt a hint of throbbing in her heart for the first time. Then, what do you say we do? Trying to calm herself down, Rias asked. Seeing that Rias has stopped being angry, which also means she has approved his reason. Tenraku thought a little and said. Our marriage contract was made by father and Surtsks. If we want to terminate it, we have to find a decent reason. Well, how about this? After you have collected your peerage, we will have a rating game match. I will lose to you deliberately at that time, and then you will have enough reason to terminate our engagement. After hearing Tenraku's words, Akeno directly rolled her eyes. This was really a bad idea, but it sounded feasible. However, if he really does this, then Tenraku's reputation will be greatly damaged. Everyone in Underworld will know that Kamiya Tenraku, the fourth son of the Phenex family, is a waste that is thrown away by his fiancée, and he can't even compete against a woman. Although Tenraku didn't care about this at all, Yubelina and the other girls wanted to speak as they felt distressed for Tenraku, and Rias looked to the side with a hint of hostility. You want me to play a fake match with you? In contrast to Akeno's speechlessness and the distress of Yubelina and others, Rias has an expression of disbelief. Looking at the girls' reaction, Tenraku can understand their feelings a little bit. After all, in the eyes of a young devil like Rias, rating game is an extremely sacred game. Any fraud is blasphemy to this sacred game and is considered to be inexcusable. However, when Rias realized the dark side behind this so-called holy game in the future, she will feel how naive she is now. Of course, Tenraku has no plans to tell Rias about this now. It's not a counterfeit match, it's just a rating game. After you win the game, even my father and your brother will have nothing to complain about. Tenraku replied calmly while touching his chin. No. We can't do that with a rating game. Kamiya Tenraku, I misunderstood you. Akeno, let's go. Feeling disappointed and annoyed at Tenraku, Rias finished speaking and pulled Akeno to the outside of the room. Tenraku didn't stop them and shrugged, he could only think of this way. If the other party didn't agree, then it is fine. Anyway, it was not him who was getting married to someone. However, to Tenraku's surprise, Rias came to the door of the room and suddenly stopped. I have decided, let's just use rating game. After hearing what Rias said, Tenraku was taken aback first, then the corners of his mouth raised slightly. What, Rias, have you finally figured it out? Under the gaze of Tenraku and Yubelina, Rias turned around, and then raised her hand to Tenraku and spoke with awe-inspiring aura. Kamiya Tenraku, after I gather my peerage, we will use the rating game to decide the outcome. But I don't need you to let me win, you must fight with all your strength. I, Rias Gremory, will defeat you with my own strength, and then I will ask my older brother and Duke Phenex to dissolve the marriage contract. Rias' voice seemed to reverberate continuously in the room, and Tenraku's eyes narrowed slightly and his eyes became sharp. Rias, are you sure you want to do this? Even after watching the duel between me and Riser. Also, if you win, we will dissolve the marriage contract, but what if you lose? Rias has her pride, but Tenraku also has his own dignity. Now that Rias is talking like that, if he shrinks back, he won't look like a man. If I lose to you, I will really marry you. Rias pulled Akeno out of the room after speaking. Tenraku, come early too, we would be waiting for you at school. Watching Rias and Akeno leave, Tenraku squinted his eyes with a different smile. Interesting, it seems that he would really gain another wife now. Rias Gremory. The air whistle and the red carriage swept away from Phenex territory. In the luxurious carriage, Rias sat quietly by the window. Her long red hair was draped behind her, and her jade-like hand was still supporting her cheek. It should originally have been a beautiful picture, but it seemed to have a trace of melancholy in it. Rias, are you still angry? Putting down the brewed black tea, Akeno asked after sitting next to Rias. Akeno, did my previous words go too far? Looking back, Rias asked instead of answering. For a moment, a smile appeared on Akeno's face before she replied. Ah, it was too much, but it's okay, Tenraku will definitely not care. Humph, you really trust that guy? That's natural, Rias has seen it too. He is obviously so overbearing, but he is also gentle. That's my Tenraku, the fascinating Tenraku. Looking at Akeno, who already had a crazy look in her eyes, Rias' mouth twitched slightly. This is not helping, Akeno. Now, Rias, the current Tenraku is very, very strong, even that Riser was not his opponent. Are you really sure that you could beat Tenraku? If you lose, you really would have to marry him. Thinking of something, Akeno asked suddenly, but it didn't look like she was worried about Rias marrying Tenraku. Who wants to be his wife? I won't lose to him. Akeno, will you help me? A trace of panic flashed in her eyes, but Rias still tried to calm down. Although she regretted saying those words on the spur of the moment, there is no regret medicine in the world, and now she can only bite the bullet and go forward. Tenraku is indeed stronger than she could have imagined, but as long as she works hard to continuously improve herself, and find some powerful peerage members and companions, it will not be impossible for her to defeat Tenraku. Ara, this is completely fine, I will definitely help Rias defeat Tenraku with all my strength. After all, I don't want Rias to grab my Tenraku. Hearing Akeno's reply, Rias was quite moved when she heard the first sentence, but after hearing the latter sentence, her entire face went dark. Chapter 41, All Parties Respond. Although he has decided to go to Kyoha Academy, Tenraku is not in any hurry. After leaving for many years, he plans to stay at the Phenex house for a few days. Riser suffered heavy losses in the duel, but he quickly recovered through his Phoenix's ability. Although his body has no problems, the wounds of the soul are not so easy to heal. He lost the duel in front of his father and great Satan, and he especially lost to his younger brother Tenraku, who had been regarded as a blemish and waste since he was a child. Such a blow was fatal to the always proud Riser. Riser shut himself in the room all day and never saw anyone again, and no one was allowed to mention anything about Tenraku in front of him. Although Ravel and their mother were worried about him and wanted to talk to him, they had no effect and were turned away. Tenraku also wondered whether to meet Riser, but the thought of meeting him now would definitely only arouse greater disgust and rebellion from Riser, so he finally dispelled the idea. Tenraku decided to let the situation develop for the time being. If Riser doesn't undergo a transformation, he will never grow. If he can figure it out, then it would be best for him. If he doesn't understand it, then Tenraku will think of a way. In the next few days, in addition to completing his daily training, Tenraku spent most of the time with Ravel, Yubelina, and the other girls. Needless to say, Yubelina and the other girls, as Tenraku peerage will be the right arm of Tenraku from now on. Although Tenraku had a good relationship with them when he was a child, it was not enough. For the girls to fight with him in the future journey, they need a deeper bond. However, these things cannot be done overnight, they need countless hours of accumulation. As long as they pay attention to themselves, everything will be fine. Ravel was very attached to Tenraku when he was a child. Although the relationship between her and Tenraku has been completely returned to the state of childhood, and it is even higher than that after 2 days of getting along. Tenraku didn't know if it was his own illusion, but he found that every time Ravel looks at him, there seems to be something different in her gaze. It's not the feeling that younger sister was attached to elder brother when he was a child, but more like. While Tenraku was still staying in Phenex territory, it was because of him that there was a big storm outside. The fourth son of the Phenex family returned and won a duel with the pure-blooded older brother Riser. His strong strength was a blockbuster. Together with the House of Baal, he washed away the name of Underworld Double Waste, and under the leadership of Lord Phenex and Great Satan Lucifer, he signed a marriage contract with Princess Rias of the Gremory family. This was a big news. What's more, Tenraku used a lot of sacred gears in the duel, which was also seen by many interested people. Not long after that, all the information about Tenraku appeared in the hands of many heads of families and powers. Although staying in the main residence of Phenex House, Tenraku naturally heard about these things, but he did not care about it and shrugged with a smile on his face. Tenraku would have never stupidly exposed himself in front of everyone before, but now it doesn't matter anymore, because he is ready. Grigori, Fallen Angel Headquarters. Yet, I didn't expect the plunderer to be a kid who snatched so many sacred gears from us. Young people nowadays, they are really incredible. Holding a glass of red wine and looking at the information in his hand, Azazel gave out a smile. As if thinking of something, Azazel turned his gaze to the silver-haired youth standing beside him and spoke with a mischievous smile on his face. Valerie, you have to be careful in the future, don't let that kid take your light wings of the white dragon sovereign divine dividing. After hearing Azazel's words, a cold light flashed in the eyes of the silver-haired youth, and a burst of violent aura burst out of his body. Humph, if he has that ability, he just needs to come here. Europe, Grand Duke Church. Snapped. An old man wearing a golden crown slapped the table with a gloomy expression. Damn it! That Sacred Gear Plunder, it turned out to be the evil child of the Phenex clan. Underworld, demonic beast forest. A huge demonic beast crawled on the ground and wailed constantly, while on top of the demonic beast stood a majestic black-haired youth. At a certain moment, it seemed that the black-haired youth had discovered something as he raised his hand, and then a gleaming butterfly came and fell into the young man's hand and turned into a scroll. Reading the content on the scroll, the black-haired young man was taken aback for a moment, and then laughed up to the sky. It turned out to be the guy with the same name as me, interesting. At the same time, there are many other places where similar scenes are being staged. A few days later, Phenex main residence. Are you going back to the human world? On the high seat, Duke Phenex looked at Tenraku who was standing below. Well, I plan to stay at Qia Academy for a while. Tenraku nodded and replied. The clock of destiny has begun to pull. Qia Academy can be said to be the center of the whole story of high school DxD, and everything starts from there. Calculating the time, it is almost to the beginning of the plot. Tenraku naturally does not want to miss the next wonderful event, and there are several powerful sacred gear waiting for him, he should also collect them. He just entered into a marriage contract with the little princess of Gremari's family, so little Tenraku can't help it. Come on, don't let other people snatch that little princess away. Madame Phenix's voice came out as she spoke with a smile on her face. Mother, it's not whatever you are thinking. A big drop of sweat fell on his forehead, and Tenraku was speechless by this turn of events. Oh, I don't believe it, but Tenraku sometimes doesn't confess, so I will accept it. Madame Phenex likes listening to Tenraku call her mother, but she has a joking smile on her face and doesn't believe Tenraku's explanation at all. Feeling speechless, Tenraku didn't bother to explain, but Madame Phenex's face had a more smile, apparently taking this as Tenraku's default. Unai-chan, after I finish the etiquette training, I will come to the human world and I will go to school together with Unai-chan. Ravel hugged Tenraku one arm and spoke. Ravel is not too young now, and will often represent the family at various noble gatherings in the future, so recently, she is being taught some etiquette by her mother, otherwise, the girl would have gone to go to human world with Tenraku now. Ah, of course, Ravel, we will be waiting for you in the human world. Tenraku smiled while stroking the girl's forehead. The time was almost up. Tenraku nodded to Yubelina behind him, knowing Yubelina's magic, and suddenly a huge magic array unfolded, enveloping Tenraku, Gasper and all the girls. Father, Mother, Ravel, we are going, please take care of yourself. Saying goodbye, the magic array exudes a dazzling brilliance, and then under the gaze of the Duke Phenex, Tenraku disappears in a flash. Chapter 42, Return. Human World, Qia Town. A light brilliance flashed as Tenraku, Gasper, Yubelina and the girls walked out of the teleportation formation. In front of Tenraku, Gasper and the girls is a huge and luxurious villa. This is the newly built Kamaya family residence. Because Tenraku will live with his peerages in the future, naturally he can no longer live in the ordinary and small house. The Duke Phenex has already asked Tenraku to build this villa in advance. As for the place where Tenraku lived with his mother before, it was not destroyed. Instead, it was transferred and sealed with magic. Tenraku can go and stay there for a few days whenever he wants. When they walked into the villa together, Yubelina and Carlamine all looked a little excited, because this will be their real home in the future. The huge villa is spacious and luxurious. It not only has a kitchen, living room, bedroom, but also a training ground, a swimming pool, and a huge sky garden, and even some rooms are connected to various places of entertainment and rest. Tenraku can't help but sigh in his heart. Isn't this too extravagant? However, for the Phenex family with strong financial resources, this is nothing at all. Each of them chose their own room. Naturally, Yubelina, Tenraku, and the girls chose the same floor, and their rooms were next to Tenraku. Gasper also clamored to be with Tenraku and everyone, but Tenraku threw a cardboard box and asked him to find a floor by himself. With tears in his eyes and sadness in his heart, Gasper holding the cardboard box just felt sad. He was ruthlessly abandoned by Lord Tenraku. However, when he chose a room with tears and then squatted alone in the cardboard box that Master Tenraku threw to him, Gasper was taken aback, only to feel a moment of peace and tranquility that came from his soul. He, Gasper Valerie, seems to have awakened something strange just now. Standing on the balcony outside his room, Tenraku was enjoying the breeze, and he could see the entire Qia town at a glance. Kuah town is not so prosperous. On the contrary, it is very ordinary. He doesn't know how many cities in this world are wider and more beautiful than Kuah town. But who knows that such an ordinary town would be a central stage of the whole world. Master Tenraku, there is a communication circle from Master Rias. Yubelena's voice rang behind him, and Tenraku also turned around and returned to the room. Connect it. Yes. Yubelena slammed his magic staff and a magic array spread out on the ground, and then the projections of the two women Rias and Akeno appeared. Ara, Tenraku, you finally came to human world. Akeno's voice sounded first as she spoke with a happy smile on her face. Tenraku nodded to the girl, then looked at Rias on the side. What's the matter, Rias? Your enrollment matters have been handled, and the school uniforms and other things will be sent to you later. Rias replied while holding her arms under her chest. So that's it, but those things don't require you to personally come here, right? Shrugging, Tenraku only intends to go to school with the girls for a period of time for the experience but does not intend to stay in that place for long. And what would he do with that uniform? Just a cross-dressing magic is much more convenient than that. It doesn't matter what, these are all formal procedures, you need to take it seriously. Rias couldn't help being very angry when she heard such a sentence after working so hard for him. Hi, I was wrong. Rias is really reliable, thank you very much. Knowing that he had said something wrong, Tenraku raised his hand in surrender as he didn't want to make the big miss angry anymore. Hey, who wants you to be grateful, I just promised Akeno to help you. With a soft snort, Rias tilted her head to one side, but as long as one wasn't a fool, they would be able to see that Tenraku's words just now made her feel very good. Akeno and Yubelena put their hands in their mouths. Tenraku is funny. This is the princess of Gremory, but she is such a big tsundere, which is really cute. By the way, this town belongs to the territory under my jurisdiction. Don't cause chaos and trouble for me here in the future. Rias said after thinking of something. Rias, I also grew up in this small town, so you don't need to worry about this kind of thing, Tenraku replied. He doesn't seem to be the kind of person who loves to trouble others, right? Really, my lord Sacred Gear Plunderer? Rias had a sarcastic smile on her face as she spoke with a sharp look in her eyes, and Tenraku's expression became stiff, and he could only be silently scrutinized by the girl. For some time, the few people talked about other things. The meeting time was almost the same. The two parties agreed to see each other tomorrow at school and then ended the communication. Master Tenraku, Master Rias, and Miss Akeno are all very good women, please cherish them. Not knowing if she was impressed by the temperament of the two women, Yubelena said with some emotion in her tone. I will cherish you as well. Tenraku smiled when he looked at the queen who was looking at himself. We are just servants of Lord Tenraku. Yubelena lowered her head slightly while her expression darkened. However, the next moment, her cheek was lifted by Tenraku again. No, you are not my servants, but my most important peerage and my most important family. Feeling obsessed and lost, Yubelena was moved endlessly by looking at Tenraku's non-hypocritical expression, only feeling that her heart was about to melt away. She was thanking gods and demons for letting them meet such a master. At the same time, a red glow rose from that charming face, and Yubelena secretly made a decision. In the evening, Tenraku room. In the bathroom, warm running water is constantly splashing down, and Tenraku and Tosca are greedily hugging and kissing each other, while the whole bathroom is echoing with the girls' moans. The soft white hair is flying in the air. After following Tenraku for all these years, Tosca has dedicated her body and mind to Tenraku, so this scene has not happened for the first time. The current battle was fierce. Seeing that the girl in his arms was about to collapse, Tenraku also stopped his attack. After washing away the traces of their deed, Tenraku used his spirit chi and washed away the water on the two of them. Tenraku hugged Tosca out of the bathroom and prepared to go back to the room to rest. DDD. Master Tenraku, this is Yubelena. Yubelena's voice suddenly sounded outside the room. Tenraku frowned but he put Tosca on the bed and covered her body with a quilt, then he put on his pajamas and opened the door. Instead of wearing the usual magic robe, Yubelena had put on a silk tulle. It seems that she has even carefully dressed up, and the charming face was filled with bright allure, which makes Tenraku can't help but feel warm. What's the matter, Yubelena? Tenraku asked. Master Tenraku, too. With red clouds on her face, Yubelena seemed extremely ashamed. Tenraku was taken aback for a moment but immediately reacted. Yubelena, are you here to attend me on my bed? Tenraku stated her purpose for Yubelina while smirking. The embarrassment in her heart grew more and more. Just as Yubelina was about to nod her head to confess, she saw Tosca in the room from the corner of her eyes, and her face suddenly turned pale. Sorry, Tenraku-sama, I will leave now. Her heart was in chaos, and when Yubelina was about to turn around and leave, Tenraku pulled her back and hugged her in his arms. Since you are here, is there any reason to go back? Leaning over Yubelina's ear and whispering, Tenraku hugged Yubelina directly, then closed the door and returned to the room. Tenraku was never the kind of foolish person, and his beauties, peerage, would sooner or later be his women, since his beautiful queen took such an initiative to send herself to the door. Then he will enjoy it. Chapter 43, Ruyi Fine Iron Rod. The next day, early morning. Tenraku opened his eyes as the morning light poured into the room. He looked at the two women beside him and a smile appeared at the corners of his mouth. To the left of Tenraku is the white-haired girl Tosca, sleeping soundly on Tenraku's arm. Her little nose sucked the air twice from time to time, and he didn't know what dreams she was having. On the right of Tenraku is Yubelina. Last night she gave up her mind and body to Tenraku. The two of them fought almost until midnight. No way, unlike Tosca's petite and exquisite type experience, Yubelina gave Tenraku a completely different experience. That enchanting, that amorous, that charming. Make people fall into the abyss, making people drunk. Ecstasy, he just wanted to loot and occupy her like crazy. Tenraku couldn't help but sigh in his heart. If he had been in his previous life, he would not have gotten such a good woman, but now he has not only got one but there will be more in the future. This is the benefit of power. As long as you have the power, you can appreciate the excitement of this world, you can control the power of this world, and you can enjoy the best woman in this world. This is the eternal rule. Master Tenraku. Yubelina also opened her eyes. After she withstood the rain and dew of last night, her charming face exuded an amazing charm, which made Tenraku couldn't help but capture the delicate purple lips greedily. Get some rest, or you won't have the energy to go to school with us later. After being satisfied, Tenraku let her go. Yubelina also responded softly, with two touching red clouds floating on her face. After putting on his clothes, Tenraku covered the two women with quilts before leaving the room. It is still early, and Carlamine, Swillen, and the other girls have not yet got up. Only Burant and Maliu, who are maids, preparing breakfast for everyone in the kitchen. After seeing Tenraku, the two women also greeted him, but there were too uncontrollable shyness on their faces. Tenraku touched his nose. They knew about Yubelina and Tenraku and he didn't even need to ask them to know about that, but Tenraku didn't explain anything. He nodded towards the two women and then walked towards the training ground. Although Tenraku now has a lot of power and many sacred gears, he does not want to rely too much on Sacred Gear's abilities, so he has not given up on the practice of swordsmanship over the years. He has consulted with many swordsmanship masters over the years and has battled against countless masters. In that life and death experience, Tenraku has also tempered his own set of swordsmanship. If one only talks about swordsmanship, there may be people in this world who are better than him, but their number would be few. As always, Tenraku was going to the training ground to practice his swordsmanship, but to Tenraku's surprise, someone had already come here before him. He saw a petite figure with short shoulder-length blue hair which is tied into several bundles. She is Tenraku's pawn, Myra. Myra is a young girl in the middle grade, and she is only a few years older than the youngest sisters Isle and Nell. She is a stick user and is also practicing her stick skills in the training ground. Flickering and leaping, her posture was agile, and the long stick in her hand was dancing as if it had come alive in the girl's hand. The nearby air currents were violently sweeping around, and as the girl swung down her stick, a huge explosion blew up in the entire training ground. Master Tenraku. Spotting Tenraku on one side, the girl stopped her training and wiped her sweat before running towards him. Myra, you really are a hard worker. Tenraku rubbed the girl's forehead with appreciation. Yes, no, I can't use magic like the elder sister Yubelina, nor do I have the talent of swordsmanship like Carlamine, so I can only work harder not to drag everyone down. Master Tenraku, am I useless? Thinking of her own affairs, a hint of inferiority flashed in the girl's eyes and she looked at Tenraku nervously. Myra is the weakest existence among all the girls in Tenraku's peerage. Not to mention Yubelina and other women, even the youngest sisters Isle and Nell are more talented than her, and they soon surpassed her after being recruited and trained by the Phenex family. This is a world where the strong eat the weak. It is not uncommon for the weak peerage members to be abandoned by its owner in the underworld, and the fate of those peerage members abandoned by the owner is very miserable without exception. Myra is also afraid of being abandoned. What are you thinking about, Myra? You are my peerage, who dares to say that you are useless? Shaking his head while feeling funny, Tenraku rubbed the girl's forehead and continued. I also didn't have any talent for magic, and I couldn't even awaken the bloodline of the Phenex family. I have been called trash by everyone, but I never felt inferior and cowardly, and I never gave up on myself. Remember one thing, there are natural geniuses in this world, but there are also hard-working geniuses. With a solemn expression on his face, Tenraku is not just offering simple comfort words, but he is saying what he really thinks. It can be said that if it wasn't for Sacred Gear Plunder, he might not even be able to match Myra. Moreover, Myra was not as bad as she had imagined. Although she might be a little insufficient compared to the Yubelina and the other girls, how could she be a waste? After all, she was recruited and trained by the Phenex clan for being the future peerage member for the young master of the Phenex family. Myra was already very good compared to the average person. Looking at Tenraku with a dazed look on her face, the girl only felt that the perplexity in her heart gradually dissipated, replaced by excitement and relief. Yes, in this world, besides the natural geniuses, there are also hard-working geniuses. Isn't Tenraku-sama her best role model for that? Master Tenraku, I understand. Nodding vigorously, the girl's eyes sparkled, and her gaze at Tenraku became more and more adoring. Tenraku nodded with satisfaction on his face after seeing Myra at one point and cheering up so quickly. This is indeed a smart girl with a good resolve. Thinking of something, Tenraku said again. Myra, give me your weapon. Although she didn't know what Tenraku-sama suddenly wanted to do, Myra didn't hesitate to respectfully hand over her long stick to Tenraku. Myra's weapon seems to be an ordinary wooden stick, but it is not that simple. It is a magic weapon specially made for her by the Phenex family. Not only is it tough and applicable, but it can also enhance the power of her stick to a certain extent. However, in Tenraku's eyes, this thing is still a bit short in terms of power. Raising his hand and flipping it, an iron rod flashing with silver light appeared in Tenraku's hand. Master Tenraku, what is this? Myra's eyes lit up. As a stick user, she can naturally see that this is a rare stick like Sacred Gear, and it is still a very powerful one at that. This is Sacred Gear Ruyi Fine Iron Rod. I once snatched it from a Chich's believer. Even if it is a little worse than the legendary Ruyi Gold Banded Stick, it's just that I have never met the Lord. That's why its reputation is not obvious. Myra, it will be yours from now on. While talking about the stick, Tenraku threw Ruyi Fine Iron Rod towards Myra, and Myra also subconsciously caught the long stick. Master Tenraku, how can such a precious sacred gear how can? Despite her extreme desire, the girl had a flustered expression on her face, and she did not dare to accept such a precious thing. With a slight smile on his face, Tenraku stroked the girl's forehead and said, Myra, you are my lovely peerage, you are far more precious than these sacred gears, so just accept it with confidence that I know you have. Tenraku's words moved the girl into a daze, and tears faintly flashing in her eyes. When encountering a master who cherishes and loves herself so much, even if he immediately asks Myra to die for him, she would be willing to do that. But... Seeing that the girl was still a little hesitant, Tenraku shook his head helplessly, and then under Myra's incredible look, the brilliance flashed, and another Ruyi Fine Iron Rod appeared in Tenraku's hands. Chapter 44, Sharing. Master Tenraku, what is this? Feeling surprised and puzzled, Myra didn't understand why two identical sacred gear appeared at the same time. The so-called sacred gear, you can actually understand it as a summoning sacred gear's ability, usually as long as the host is not dead, no matter how many times the sacred gear is destroyed, it can be recondensed. I can share my sacred gear with others so that I and others can use sacred gear's power at the same time. After hearing Tenraku's words, the shocked Myra couldn't help covering her lips. Not to mention Myra, Tenraku himself was taken aback when he developed this ability. Sacred Gear Sharing, this is the name Tenraku gave to this ability. He can share every piece of looted sacred gear with someone who he designated as the host. Not only the host can use sacred gear's power, but Tenraku can also use sacred gear's power. And the abilities the host developed from sacred gear can also be fed back to Tenraku. Although he has an unparalleled talent for controlling sacred gears, as more and more sacred gears are plundered, Tenraku cannot develop all sacred gear's abilities. Most of the sacred gears in Tenraku would become a waste, so Tenraku wondered if he could develop a similar ability to share sacred gear with another host, and let those hosts develop and enhance sacred gear's power for him, while he himself only needs to focus on those powerful and special sacred gears. Although at first, he was just thinking about giving it a try, Tenraku succeeded in the end. He developed the ability to share his sacred gears with others. As followers of Tenraku, Gasper and Tosca became the first experimenters. In the beginning, Tenraku captured Evil Eye that stops the world-forbidden Baylor view and inherent barrier from these two, but now, not only can Tenraku use these sacred gears abilities, but he can also allow Gasper and Tosca to use them. There is no doubt that sacred gear sharing has great meaning and value. It allows Tenraku to cultivate a large number of powerful partners, and it also allows him to develop sacred gear's capabilities for himself, saving Tenraku a lot of energy and time. Of course, this ability is not unlimited. The sacred gear shared by Tenraku is in the initial state, and the ability he developed cannot be shared with the host. The sacred gear's host shared by Tenraku can only start from the beginning, but the ability of its development can be fed back to Tenraku. To some extent, this is not a bad thing, because, with such restrictions, those shared sacred gears hosts will never have more control over sacred gears than Tenraku, which also leaves Tenraku without any worries. Of course, Tenraku is fearless even if there is no such restriction, because as long as he has a thought, the shared sacred gear can be collected by him at any time. He is the real owner of these sacred gears. Myra, can you take it now? Use it well, let me use your power and sacred gear's power. Looking at the girl who was still in shock, Tenraku smiled as he spoke. Yes, Master Tenraku. Myra finally recovered and stopped being nervous and replied very excitedly. Seeing the gorgeous and extraordinary iron rod in her hand, the girl loved it. She jumped back into the field, and her hands quickly moved the ruby fine iron rod. The airflow rioted and stirred the wind and clouds. Myra leaped into the air and the ruby fine iron rod in her hand stretched rapidly and then fell onto the training ground with a slam. Dust billowed while the ground vibrated, and almost half of the site was turned into rubble by the girl's attack. A brilliance shined and the already set magic formation quickly repaired the damaged ground, while Myra looked at the ruby fine iron rod in her hand with an expression of excitement. This is a sacred gear's power. The corner of Tenraku's mouth raised slightly, and he thought that he had really found the right owner for this sacred gear. He is looking forward to the kind of interesting abilities that will ruby fine iron rod develop for Myra in her hands. It's time to go, Master Tenraku. After the morning training was over, after breakfast, Yubelina served Tenraku and changed into a school uniform, and then said softly. Looking at the girls who were ready to go, Tenraku nodded, but when he looked to the other side. I don't want to go to school. I don't want to go to school. Holding the table tightly and refusing to let go, Gasper spoke while crying. Master Tenraku, Gasper didn't even want to go to school, let's break him up. Okay, let's attack him. Woo, don't attack me. Isle and Nell, the two sisters teased Gasper and took out the chainsaw as if they were about to disintegrate him. Gasper, who was so scared that his face was pale, hid directly under the table and refused to come out again. Forget it, let him stay at home if he doesn't want to go. The corners of his eyes throbbed and Tenraku said in an angry manner. Gasper suffered from a serious psychological trauma when he was young, and even now, he has not fully healed from it. For fear that others will watch him, he becomes nervous and afraid whenever he is in a crowded place. Of course, in Tenraku's view, if it weren't for his cute face that is better than a girl's and a womanish obsession, who would care about him, those wounds would have healed long ago. Gasper, who did not want to go to school, was left alone to watch the house while Tenraku and the girls were going to Kyoha Academy. No, I'm going to be late. Mom and Dad, I am going to school. Tenraku and the girls have just walked out of the Kamiya family residence, and a figure just happened to run out of the Hyudo house next to them. The figure was carrying a school bag, with stray hair, and also wearing Kyoha Academy uniforms. It is Hyudo Isay. The corner of his eye swept towards Tenraku, Yubelina and the girls, and Hyudo Isay was dumbfounded. Beautiful girl, so many beautiful girls. Especially when his eyes went on Yubelina's body, Hyudo Isay almost stared out with both eyes. Those are two scary weapons. Hyudo Isay couldn't help but feel himself float up. He met so many beautiful girls after he went out of his house. When I went out, he met the big elder sister with such a weapon. He must be dreaming, he must be dreaming. Seeing Hyudo Isay's full pervert reaction, Yubelina and Swollen furrowed their brows, and a look of disgust flashed in their eyes. Maliu raised a jade hand and was about to launch magic to punish this reckless human, but she was stopped by the look in Tenraku's eyes. Yo, Isay-san, it's been a long time. Raising a hand, Tenraku said hello with a smile on his face. After regaining his consciousness, Hyudo Isay quickly wiped his saliva, and finally noticed Tenraku, who had been ignored by his subconscious mind. Who are you? Feeling embarrassed, he reluctantly took his gaze back from Mubelina. Although Hyudo Isay thought Tenraku was familiar, he couldn't remember him. Why, Isay-san, have you forgotten me? I am Kamiya Tenraku, I used to live at the house next to you. Tenraku answered with a smile on his face, and Hyudo Isay, who heard him, seemed to finally remember something and couldn't help but exclaimed. You are Tenraku. Chapter 45, Looking. In Hyudo Isay's impression, when they were young, there lived a child named Kamiya Tenraku who was about the same age as him. However, the two families rarely communicate with each other, and the guy has never played with him, so even if they met outside, he just said hello and they were merely acquaintances. What Hyudo Isay didn't expect was that Tenraku suddenly returned after missing for so many years. Not only has he become a handsome guy who would make many guys feel jealous, but there are also so many super cute and beautiful girls beside him. Weren't you missing? Looking at Tenraku with a surprised look on his face, Hyudo Isay asked. It's just that I needed to do some things, so I was away for a while. Now that I have completed those things, I have come back. Isay, you are still as energetic as you were when you were a child. Do you still go to the park to read the Oppai Uncle comics? Naturally, he would not explain his whereabouts to Hyudo Isay, but Tenraku still joked with a smile. No, I don't do that, it happened so long ago. Feeling the contempt of the beautiful women's in front of him, Hyudo Isay blushed and hurriedly waved his hands in reply. Oppai Uncle is his life mentor, the senior who awakened the soul of Oppai in him. He used to go to the park to see the comics of Oppai Uncle every day, and those were the happiest days in his childhood memory. But it is a pity that Oppai Uncle was later taken away by the police uncles, and it has never appeared since then. It is still extremely regrettable to think about it now. Tenraku-kun, who are they? Reluctantly feeling bad for the Oppai Uncle in his heart, Hyudo Isay's gaze fell on Yubelina and the other girls again, and he couldn't help asking. He is a wolf among the wolves who have liberated themselves and awakened the soul of Oppai. He has never had any immunity towards creatures such as beautiful women. They are some of my friends. They are temporarily staying at my house, and I will introduce all of them to you if I have the opportunity. Tenraku spoke while the corner of his mouth were raised, while Hyudo Isay, who heard the answer, despised him. He would introduce if there is a chance. Isn't it a great opportunity now? Hypocrisy, hypocrisy, and hypocrisy. As expected, there is no good thing about handsome guys. Moreover, like hell would I believe that they are just your friends. I am afraid they are all more than just friends, they are all your harem members who are enjoyed by you every night. Both of them are boys, who doesn't know what's going on. What Hyudo Isay didn't know was that his envious and jealous suspicion had actually been extremely close to the truth. Isay, are you also attending Kyoa Academy now? It just so happens that we are also going to transfer to Kyoa Academy. If you don't mind, you can go to school with us. Tenraku also invited him. Although one of Hyudo Isay's most annoying things was walking with handsome guys, he still agreed after seeing Yubelina and the other girls. For the beautiful girls, he is a man who would dare to do anything. However, what disappointed Hyudo Isay was that apart from Tenraku gossiping with him, all the beautiful girls were far away from him, and they didn't even look at him. Hyudo Isay couldn't help but sigh. This damn handsome face-seeking world. Location, Kyoa Academy. As usual, young and energetic young girls came to the school from their homes. In twos and threes, talking and laughing, they filled the whole academy with a breath of youth. At a certain moment, it seemed that something had been discovered by then as the teenagers and girls stopped by coincidentally. That senior is... Woo, handsome guy. Beautiful girls, so many beautiful girls. With a faint smile on his handsome cheeks, the people watched as Tenraku and the girls came to the gate of the school. All the teenagers and girls nearby were shocked. Kyoa Academy is famous for its beauties, and it also has idols such as Rias and Akeno. Although the stunning Yubelina and the girls are surprising, they are not unacceptable. What really surprised the boys and girls was Tenraku, who was at the forefront of the group. Tenraku has inherited the genes of his mother Kamiya Tamako. That handsome face is stronger than Kaiba in the original series. Coupled with these years of cultivation experience, his whole persona is exuding a mature charm. His face held an unspeakable charm of self-confidence and masculinity. For boys, a strong sense of confrontation will naturally arise in them, but for girls, he is an irresistible medicine. The boys were jealous but the girls exclaimed, and then the atmosphere of the whole school was agitated. Yubelina and the other girls with Tenraku will naturally not be affected because of these ordinary young girls, and they walked into the campus step by step with their expressions unchanged, and everyone also automatically gave way for them. However, compared to the calmness of Tenraku and the girls, Hyudo Isay who was walking together with them was a bit embarrassed. Look, isn't that Hyudo? It's really that perverted. How can that kind of guy walk with those noble-looking people? It should be impossible. Hearing the voices of the girls, Hyudo Isay's eyes twitched. He is feeling really sorry about walking with a handsome guy like Tenraku. The girls are only looking at Tenraku's face and cursing him. You are too slow. Following Tenraku, Yubelina and the other girls into the school, Hyudo Isay was still thinking about it when a dreadful voice suddenly rang in front of him. A figure with bright red hair appeared. What Hyudo Isay sees is the figure of the school's first idol Rias senpai. The voice just now belongs to him, and beside her, there was also the school's second idol, Akeno senpai. Seeing those two noble and beautiful girls who can be described as the dream lovers of all boys in the school, Hyudo Isay was a little bit stunned. Sorry, Rias, Akeno, you have been waiting for so long. Seeing Rias' angry look, Tenraku apologized and greeted the two women. Who is he? Rias' gaze fell on Hyudo Isay, and she frowned. He is Isay, Hyudo Isay, my neighbor. He came to school together with us as he met us on the road. Looking at the flattered Hyudo Isay who finally recovered, Tenraku smiled. Rias finally remembered the name. It was one of the famous perverted trios in the academy. She didn't show any disgusting gaze as Rias wouldn't have any interest in such people. She just glanced at Hyudo Isay lightly and quickly retracted his gaze. And Hyudo Isay, who was still feeling flattered, instantly turned to feel endless loss. Hey, I'll settle the bill with you later on you being late. Come with me to the student council room to apply for admission. Ah, got it, Miss Rias. Looking at Rias and Tenraku who seemed to be very familiar, Hyudo Isay was feeling jealous again. Not only does he have pretty and outrageous friends, but he is also so familiar with Rias senpai, the number one idol in the school. What has Tenraku done in the years since he disappeared? Isay-san, we still have some things, so you can go to the classroom first. By the way, if you are free, come to my house in the evening. Please don't refuse, we will be waiting for your arrival. Thinking of something, Tenraku said to Hyudo Isay, and then followed Rias and Akeno into the teaching building with Yubelina and the other girls. Looking at the people who had left, Hyudo Isay couldn't help but play back Tenraku's hidden smile before he left, and he didn't know what it meant. And he suddenly invited him to his house to be a guest or something. That guy Tenraku didn't seem to be so enthusiastic before, right? Chapter 46, Arrogant. Tenraku, is there anything special about that person called Isay? Draping herself on Tenraku's arm, Akeno asked curiously. Not only Akeno but Rias, Yubelina and the other girls were also puzzled because the previous Tenraku was a bit too enthusiastic. He is a very special person. He is the owner of a Sacred Gear, the legendary Gauntlet of the Red Dragon Emperor boosted gear. There was no point in hiding it, so Tenraku smiled and replied, and the girls who heard the answer were shocked. Gauntlet of the Red Dragon Emperor boosted gear, one of the legendary Longinus tools that destroy God. Just like that, a guy who looks too ordinary would have a sacred gear of that caliber. It is incredible. Akeno's eyes flickered, and Rias' face couldn't hide the look of shock on it. Yubelina and the other girls couldn't help being extremely excited after a brief surprise. If their master can get Gauntlet of the Red Dragon Emperor boosted gear. All the beautiful faces showed cold smiles on them, and the clever girls did understand Tenraku's idea. It turned out to be the sacred gear that sealed the heavenly dragon. That's incredible. Rias looked at Tenraku with a complicated expression on her face. Now Tenraku is already strong enough. If he gets the power of Longinus tools that destroy God, would she be able to really beat him? As if he knew what the girl was thinking, Tenraku smiled slightly and said, Rias, if you like that sacred gears too, then I will give it to you. After hearing Tenraku's words, all the women present were shocked and even Rias thought that she had heard it wrong. What did you say? Isay, who owns Gauntlet of the Red Dragon Emperor boosted gear, has unlimited potential. If Rias takes him as a peerage and trains him well, he will definitely be a big help for you in the future. How about it, Rias, are you interested? With the power of that Longinus tools that destroy God, your ability to defeat me in the future will be much higher. With a relaxed look on his face, Tenraku looked as if he was just talking about a trivial thing. Yubelina and the girls stopped talking, and they all looked at Rias on the side feeling a little jealous. The big miss from Gremari's family is nothing more than a fiancé at best, but their master treats her too kindly. Despite her arrogance in her heart, Rias is also a normal girl, and she couldn't help but feel moved. Tenraku is even willing to give her such precious Longinus. Except for this idiot in front of her, Rias couldn't think of anyone else in the world who could do such a thing. However, whether she wants to avoid it or be moved, Akeno is the only woman present who knew Tenraku best. At this time, she is looking at Tenraku with a playful smile on her face, and the corners of her mouths have been pulled upward. I don't need it, that's a person you found. Although the power of Longinus is very tempting, but I am not so shameless, I will use my real power to compete with you. Rias calmed down, but she refused Tenraku's offer without hesitation. If it was discovered by her, then Rias would, of course, use that precious power for herself, but since Tenraku discovered it first, Rias would never attack Isay again. Although the power of Longinus is precious, it can't change the feeling of pride in Rias. Whatever. The corners of his mouth raised slightly and Tenraku didn't force the issue. Although Rias did not accept the sacred gear, his goal has been achieved. Yubelina and the girls behind him breathed out a sigh of relief, and their gazes at Rias turned into admiration. She is indeed the princess of the Gremari family, she is really impressive. Tenraku, you are getting worse. The group continued to walk towards the student council room, but Akeno leaned into Tenraku's ear and chuckled. But you still like me, don't you? After scraping the girl's little nose, Tenraku did not deny anything. Gently opening her red lips, Akeno's face also burst into a brighter smile. Ah, such a bad Tenraku, you make me even more fascinated. Qia Academy is an anthropological academy on the surface, but secretly it is controlled by the devils. In addition to the Gremari house where Rias is located, there is another family that belongs to one of the 72 pillars of the Underworld. You are Rias' soon-to-be husband, the miracle child from the Phenex family? In the student council room, a short-haired girl with a cool temperament and glasses is looking at Tenraku. Behind the girl stood several other student council members, and without exception, they were all devil. I used to be called the waste of the Phenex family. If there is no one else in the miracle you are talking about, then it must be me. Tenraku replied while touching his nose. With a faint light flashing in her eyes, the girl stretched out a hand, and then announced her name. My name is Sana Satrai. In the human world, my name is Shidori Sana. Kamaya Tenraku, just call me by my name. Clasping his hand with the girl's, Tenraku also reported his name. Yes, the girl standing in front of Tenraku at this time is the head of the student council of Qia Academy, younger sister of An of the great Satan Leviathan, the proud daughter of House of Satrai and the next family lord. Shidori Sana. Why are you two holding hands? Looking at the two people who clasped their hands and wouldn't let go, Rias next to them was speechless. With a chuckle, Tenraku put his hand back, and Sana, who her withdrew, pushed her glasses calmly and said. Rias, are you jealous? I, Rias Gremari, will never get jealous. The corner of her eye twitched and Rias continued. Moreover, he and I are only nominal marriage partners, because our family has to do this, we didn't agree to it ourselves. However, we have made an agreement. As long as I beat him in a rating game, we can terminate the marriage contract. If it was someone else, Rias would naturally not say these words, but Sana is her friend, so Rias did not hide anything from her. For a moment, the corners of her mouth raised slightly, and Sana couldn't help but look at Tenraku and Rias. I have really heard something interesting now, Rias, Kamaya Tenraku, I look forward to your game. I have handled your enrollment process for you, but Kamaya Tenraku, your queen would be a teacher. Hearing Sona's voice, Yubelina couldn't help but blush. It is true that with her figure and age, she is not suitable for going to class with everyone and she is indeed more suitable to be a school teacher. Tenraku didn't have any objections and nodded to agree with Sona's proposal. The few people talked for a few more moments. Rias was also preparing to take Tenraku to their classroom, so they didn't stay anymore, and said goodbye to Sana and left the student council room. Master Sana, that Kamiya Tenraku is exuding extremely powerful sacred gear fluctuations. After seeing Tenraku and the others leave, a girl beside Sana couldn't help but say. She has a tall figure and waterfall-like long hair, she is also wearing glasses and having a cool temperament similar to Sana, she is the queen of Sona's peerage. Shinrit Tsubaki. Pushing her glasses, Sona's mouth floated with a curve. The Sacred Gear Plunder who caused both Angel and Church to have a headache, the Underworld trash who had the same reputation as the House of Baal, and the soon-to-be the finance of Rias. I'm looking forward to it, the next campus life. Chapter 47, Suspect. After coming out of the student council room, Yubelina was taken away by the person who reacted according to Sona's arrangement, and it seemed that she was going to handle some teacher entry matters. Isle and Nell are too young to be assigned to junior high school. Myra is not very big either and was assigned to the first grade of high school. The remaining girls, Carlamine and Mai, were assigned to the third grade of high school together with Tenraku, in the same class as Rias and Akeno. The two sisters, Isle and Nell, would be first sent to the junior high school, and then everyone would come to the first grade where Myra was assigned. Rias was at the door, and then a girl walked out of the classroom. The girl had short silver hair, she was petite and had a cute face without any superfluous expressions, she is just another peerage of Rias. To Zhao Shiron. Konako, Myra is from Tenraku peerage, she will be in the same class with you from now on, help her out. Touching the girl's forehead affectionately, Rias said. I see, club president. With a soft and pleasant voice, Konako nodded and replied obediently. Glancing at Myra next to her, her gaze finally fell on Tenraku. You're Konako-chan, I've heard about you, so please help Myra. Looking at the girl, Tenraku smiled gently. If he remembers it correctly, then Tujao Konako is a survivor of the strongest clan in Nikomata, the last descendant of the advanced Ikai who can use sage arts. Although the Ni and Li in Tenraku peerage also belong to the Nikomata clan, their bloodline and talent are surpassed by Tujao Konako too much. Yes, Senior Tenraku. Not really the talkative type, Tujao Konako simply replied. Because of Akeno's relationship with Tenraku, she paid more attention to him. After the first meeting and a few simple conversations, the girl already had an impression of Tenraku in her heart. Not annoying. It was almost time for class, so everyone didn't stop there. After entrusting Myra to Konako, they went to the class where Rias and Akeno were. The arrival of Tenraku and the girls caused a commotion in the class, even though Rias couldn't help showing off a little. But it seems that Tenraku is more popular than the number one idol in the school, especially among the girls. Looking at the girls with red eyes, Tenraku smiled and said hello. He intends to enjoy the next period of campus life. In the evening, Kamiya family. Excuse me, I'm Hyudo Isay. After hesitating for a long time, Hyudo Isay finally knocked on the door of the Kamiya family house. Originally, Hyudo Isay didn't want to come, although he didn't understand why, but there is an intuition that he shouldn't get too close to Tenraku, but when he thought of those beautiful and cute girls, Hyudo Isay finally could not hold back. That guy is so handsome and his family is rich, but can he take care of all these girls? For those lovely beautiful girls, for the Oppai elder sisters, even if it is the dragon's lair, Hyudo Isay would dare to break in. KCH. Not long after, the door of Kamiya family residence was opened, and then two women, Burant and Maliu, dressed as maids, appeared in front of Hyudo Isay. Master Isay, welcome, our master has been waiting for a long time. It was completely different from the coldness they had shown in the morning. At this time, the two women had bright smiles on their faces and their attitude towards Hyudo Isay was extremely warm and friendly. Staring fiercely at the two women Burant and Maliu, Hyudo Isay's eyes are almost staring out. Girls, maid. Hyudo Isay doubted if he had been having hallucinations, he actually saw a maid, not in the comics, nor in the imagination, but the real maid. Hello, we are the maids of Tenraku-sama. Looking at the surprised Hyudo Isay, Burant and Maliu replied with a smile on their faces, but there was a flash of sneer and disdain in their eyes. A soil bun is a soil bun, even if this has the kind of powerful Longinus tools that destroy God, in the end, it is not enough for them to care about him past a certain limit. Master Isay, please come in with us quickly. Thinking of their master's affairs, the two girls no longer delayed, and they invited Hyudo Isay in with great enthusiasm. Isay was feeling a little dizzy. Looking at the two beautiful and charming maid girls and the luxurious architectural furnishings of the Kamiya family, Hyudo Isay couldn't help but sigh in his heart. I hate handsome guys. I hate winners in life. I hate this world. Isay-san, you are finally here. In the living room, Tenraku, Yubelina and the girls were talking about something, and when he saw Hyudo Isay come in, he stood up and greeted him. Good evening, Tenraku-kun, and everyone. This is a small housewarming gift. Smiling with an embarrassed expression on his face, Hyudo Isay took out the small gift he had prepared. Although he himself feels very shabby, it doesn't matter to him. Isay-san is too polite, Malu, accept Isay-san's gift. Yes, Master Tenraku. You arrived at the right time. We are about to start dinner. Please take a seat. Hyudo Isay feels uncomfortable after seeing Tenraku's smile, and he is not here to eat, but for the beautiful girl. His eyes lingered on the bodies of Yubelina and the girls. Although his heart was having crooked thoughts, Hyudo Isay agreed, and everyone sat down. Soon, Malu and Burant, who were the maids, took out the tableware, and the whole table was filled with rich and luxurious dishes. Hyudo Isay fiddled with the tableware like everyone, and then fed an unknown dish into his mouth. At first, he didn't care much, but the next moment he stayed all over. Delicious, too delicious. Each dish has a different taste, but it is also the ultimate delicious. And there is that unknown red wine, just like the legendary celestial dew. Tenraku and the girls all enjoyed their dinner elegantly, but Hyudo Isay gobbled up the food. Isle and Nell laughed at him fiercely. However, Hyudo Isay has the thickest skin, and it didn't matter to him at all. It was exactly what they had expected. The women did not expect such a guy to understand the etiquette of nobles. Everyone talked and laughed and occasionally interjected, and the atmosphere of the whole meal was pretty good. Although Hyudo Isay was a little surprised that everyone was so warm and friendly to him, but he quickly left those thoughts behind as he didn't like to think of difficult things. Isn't this exactly what he wanted? As long as he can get closer to these beautiful girls, then everything would be just fine. The dinner lasted almost an hour. After the dinner, Malu and Burant removed the tableware and put the dessert again, while Hyudo Isay was holding his bracing belly and was reluctant to move. With his eyes closed, his face full of comfort, the company of beautiful women and luxury, the life of the Kamiya family made Hyudo Isay suddenly feel suspicious of his life. If Kamiya Tenraku's life is what a normal person should have, then what is his previous life? Is it that of a dog? Damn it, winner in life. With a panoramic view of Hyudo Isay's reaction, the corners of Tenraku's mouth raised slightly, and it was almost the time. Chapter 48, Boosted Gear. Isay, there is actually an important matter I need to discuss with you, and that is also the main reason why I invited you over tonight. After tasting the sweet black tea, Tenraku's voice came to Isay's ears. Important matter? What important matter? Hyudo Isay couldn't help but reveal a blank look on his face as he heard Tenraku's words. Is Tenraku finally going to introduce him to these beautiful girls? By the way, he only knows the names of the two maids and the sisters Isle and Nell. He really wants to know the name of the big Oppai elder sister, the name of the cosplay cat ear sisters, the name of the girl who wears half a mask and is so cool, and... Feeling something, Hyudo Isay couldn't help but get excited. Damn it, Kamiya Tenraku, after so long, will he finally introduce him to these beautiful girls? However, in the next moment, something happened that disappointed Hyudo Isay. Isay-kun, do you know what this is? Raising a hand, a light flashed and then a golden ring appeared on Tenraku's fingertips. What the isn't this just magic? Stopping the curse in mid, Hyudo Isay replied while feeling some disappointment. People of this time have changed, isn't it just a golden ring? He has seen many people who do that on magic shows. The girls laughed while Tenraku also shook his head. Even Gasper on one side couldn't help but cast a contemptuous look at Hyudo Isay. This is a sacred gear, the power that the legendary god of the Holy Bible bestows on mankind. Forget it, I don't think that you would understand, I will let you experience it by yourself. With a helpless tone, Tenraku bent his fingers, and the golden ring on his fingertips suddenly split into four and shot out. He didn't know what happened, but by the time Hyudo Isay came back to his senses, he realized that he was actually hung in the air. The four golden rings were half hidden into the void and half bound to his hands and feet. What is this? Let go, let me go. Struggling instinctively, Hyudo Isay, who hadn't even awakened his sacred gear, was naturally unable to break free from the bondage of the golden ring. Isay, it's useless, don't waste your strength. This is Lejun's golden dragonfly. Even the great sage equal to heaven won't be able to easily escape if trapped by it. Tenraku kindly reminded him as he walked towards Hyudo Isay's body. Although Tenraku still had a faint smile on his face, there was a shuddering feeling in Hyudo Isay's eyes at this time, and he still didn't understand that something was wrong. What do you want to do? Hyudo Isay instinctively felt a great crisis and his body tensed automatically. Suddenly talking about sacred gear or something made him feel confused, but Hyudo Isay was not in the mood to care about that. What he cares most about is what Tenraku wants to do to him. Isay, you also have a sacred gear, and that is one of the powers I need. Now, Isay-san, can you give me your sacred gear? No longer concealing his intentions, Tenraku revealed his purpose. What sacred gear? I don't understand what you are talking about. Let go of me, let me go. The feeling of danger in his heart became stronger and Hyudo desperately kept trying to break free of those golden rings that were in the way. Isay, there are things that you don't understand, maybe it would be better. It will be a little bit painful when the sacred gear is taken away, so please bear with it. Getting too lazy to say anything, Tenraku directly activated the Sacred Gear Plunder ability, and then under Hyudo Isay's horrified look, Tenraku plunged a hand into his chest. Ah! Pain! Hyudo Isay felt as if his heart was pinched, and his entire face was distorted. Grabbing the sacred gear inside Hyudo Isay, a sharp light flashed in Tenraku's eyes, and he became a little excited. He once tried to capture Gauntlet of the Red Dragon Emperor boosted gear for the first time and it almost killed him, but the same thing won't happen the second time. The sacred gear was extracted bit by bit, and Hyudo Isay's screams became stronger and irritating. On one side, Maliu furrowed her brows and directly hit Hyudo Isay's mouth to seal it off to stop the screams, so that he could no longer make a sound. Only the bloodshot eyes and the veins that came out of his body were still telling them how painful it is. A little bit of time passed, and seeing that sacred gear was about to be taken out of Hyudo Isay's body, a sudden change happened. What? With Hyudo Isay as the center, an endless violent energy spread out, directly causing Gasper, Yubelina and the girls to fly back, and Tenraku, who was standing closest was also affected, and a trace of blood leaked out from the corner of his mouth. Shit, damn it! He cursed secretly and a gloomy expression appeared on his face. What Tenraku did not expect was that Gauntlet of the Red Dragon Emperor boosted gear was protecting its host and refused to be taken away by Tenraku. Tosca! Yes, Master Tenraku! Tosca yelled to one side, and the girl who had been in a tacit understanding with Tenraku for a long time also immediately understood and activated her Sacred Gear inherent barrier ability to envelop both Tenraku and Hyudo Isay. The violent energy was finally contained, and the overthrown women also got up with lingering fear on their faces. Obviously, the host hasn't awakened his Sacred Gear's power yet, and the energy released may not even have a 10,000th of its peak power, but that 10,000th of power is already this terrifying. This is the power of Longinus tools that can destroy God. Gasper and the girls were worried as they watched the situation in the barrier with nervous expressions on their faces. The magic that blocked Hyudo Isay's voice was also destroyed in the energy outbreak just now. The entire barrier was filled with the violent energy flow and Hyudo Isay's screams came out that shook people's ears. Ah! Ah! More and more violent energy radiated from Hyudo Isay's body, and the inherent barrier that Tosca used also shook for a while and it looked as if it was about to collapse at any time. The cold light in Tenraku's eyes flickered, and the battle intent in his heart was also aroused. He wants to capture Gauntlet of the Red Dragon Emperor boosted gear, even if God comes today, he won't be able to stop him. Haa! Tenraku shouted out loud as his spirit chi burst out. Desperately resisting while desperately seizing, the world around Tenraku disappeared. He forgot about Hyudo Isay, he forgot about Gasper, Yubelina and others as something appeared in front of Tenraku. A huge red dragon bathed in flames appeared in front of him. The dragon looked noble, beautiful, majestic, powerful. That great figure that looks down upon everyone under the sky is one of the legendary two heavenly dragons. Red Dragon Emperor Drake. Chapter 49, Red Dragon Emperor. Boy, I remember you, you are the human being who tried to seize my power before. Looking down on Tenraku, Drake's indistinguishable but majestic voice rang out throughout the space. I am not a kid, my name is Kamaya Tenraku, Red Dragon Emperor Drake. Tenraku replied while he looked at the legendary heavenly dragon with a proud expression on his face. The huge pressure fell in an instant, and compared to other people who couldn't help but prostrate themselves in front of this great creature, Tenraku's posture was tough and unyielding, not timid. Drake watched Tenraku quietly for a long time, and then spoke again. "Human, do you want to take my power again?" "Ah, Drake, I need your power, and you also need a host like me." Tenraku replied without denying anything. "Speak your reason, human." The fiery flames surrounded Tenraku. According to Tenraku's next answer, the flames would choose to dissipate or engulf Tenraku's figure. Without the slightest panic, Tenraku said with a confident smile on his face. "Red Dragon Emperor Drake, your old enemy Albion has awakened, and he has also encountered the strongest host in history, the son of Miracle who inherited great Satan Lucifer and human bloodline Vala Lucifer. And you? You are still sleeping in an incompetent host. Even if he is lucky and awakens his Sacred Gear's power, he doesn't have any talents. You should know that this host of yours is only interested in female Oppai and he will not be White Dragon Sovereign's opponent. So, give me your power. If it were you and me, we would definitely become the strongest Red Dragon Emperor beyond all generations." Tenraku's words are somewhat arrogant, but now is not the time to be humble, and with the talent brought by Sacred Gear Plunder, he also has that confidence. The whole space fell into silence again. After a long time, the flames surrounding Tenraku gradually dissipated, and Drake's voice sounded again in the space. "I agree with your reasons, human, if it is you, it might be possible to do it. Kamaya Tenraku, I also remember your name, and you will be my new host from now on. Take my power, partner, become the strongest Red Dragon Emperor, then defeat Albion and its host." Even though he had expected such a result, Tenraku couldn't help but get excited after hearing Drake's words, showing great joy on his face. "Ah, I will do it, Drake. I will not only defeat Vala Lucifer, but also take away his sacred gear, so that you two heavenly dragons' power will be used by me. What an arrogant fellow, but I will remember your words. If you can do it, partner." Drake's voice was still reverberating in his ears, but the entire space disappeared. When Tenraku came back to his senses, he had returned to reality. Isay's screams have stopped, and he has passed out after taking a deep breath of breath. Tenraku held a scarlet treasured jade in his hand that exudes strong fluctuations of violent energy. It is the legendary Sacred Gear. Gauntlet of the Red Dragon Emperor Boosted Gear. Master Tenraku. Looking at Tenraku who finally succeeded, Yubelina and the other girls also had an excited expression on their faces. Nodding towards the girls, Tenraku disappeared without leaving a trace, and in the next moment, he appeared on the training ground outside. Fusion. A sharp light flashed in his eyes, and Tenraku directly integrated Gauntlet of the Red Dragon Emperor Boosted Gear. HNGLNG. An endless amount of violent energy spreads from Tenraku. The energy contained in a Longinus is huge and the spirit chi in Tenraku's body skyrocketed wildly. Ah! Looking up to the sky, a piece of scarlet armor appeared on Tenraku's left hand, but everything did not end there. The scarlet armor continued to stretch and it spread and soon covered Tenraku's whole body, and then a pair of Scarlet's dragon wings were unfolded with a scream. Balance breaker boosted. Gear scale male. A scarlet beam of light went straight into the sky and the Longinus forbidden move the armor of the Red Dragon Emperor appeared. Tenraku actually reached it at the moment he merged with the Sacred Gear. Gasper, Yubelina and the girls who were driven out of the house were already stunned. Looking at the gorgeous scarlet figure in the sky, Gasper's face flushed with excitement while Yubelina and the girls were endlessly obsessed. That noble and great figure in the sky is their master. In the sky, the pain of spirit chi skyrocketing in his body has passed and Tenraku shook his hands and felt his current strength. Power, indescribably power. Tenraku has captured a lot of sacred gears over the years, and the spirit chi in his body is also very strong. If converted into magic power, it is enough to match him with a high-class devil. With the integration of Gauntlet of the Red Dragon Emperor Boosted Gear just now, Tenraku has broken through this limitation and his strength has skyrocketed again. If someone asked the current level of Tenraku's power, it would be at the level of Great Satan's. The face under the armor showed a drunken expression. Tenraku had never felt so powerful before. However, it is not enough, he wants more and more, he will become stronger and stronger. As expected of my partner, you are much more reliable than the previous guy. Drake's voice rang from the treasured jade on the armor, which seemed very pleasant. This is also a matter of course, the stronger the host, the stronger the power that Sacred Gear exerts. Albion has met his strongest host, but Drake has now also found his strongest host. Now they will see whose host is the real strongest. Drake, one day you will know how right of a choice you made. Feeling confident and proud, although Isay in the original book also exerted Drake's power to the extreme, and finally became one of the legendary transcenders, Tenraku has absolute confidence that he will do better. Glancing around, Tenraku can clearly perceive the mice that are peeping here, the devils, fallen angels, Chich's people, humans, but he didn't pay any attention to them. He will just let them watch to their heart's content, and then pass the news out. The strongest Red Dragon Emperor has been born. Tenraku is really looking forward to it, and he is waiting for the white guy to appear soon. Slowly landing on the ground, Tenraku dissipated the armor of its wings and face. Master Tenraku! Gasper ran over with an excited expression on his face, touching here and there on Tenraku's mighty armor, while Yubelina and the other girls also rushed over excitedly, leaning over and saluting Tenraku on one knee. Congratulations, Master! For a peerage, their king is everything to them. Tenraku got the power of the Red Dragon Emperor, and the girls were happy for him from the deepest part of their heart. If you really want to congratulate me, please do well tonight. Holding up Yubelina's chin at the front, a wicked smile appeared on Tenraku's mouth. Looking at that mighty and gorgeous figure, Yubelina had only that endless obsession in her eyes. Yes, Lord Tenraku. Is that the ability to rob another's sacred gear? He is really a terrible guy. Rias, it seems that it would be impossible for you to beat that Kamiya Tenraku, so just marry him honestly. A gentle breeze was blowing, and there were several beautiful figures standing on a tall building. They were Rias, Akeno, Sana, and other peerage's members. Hey, I can win against him. Tightly clenching her hand, Rias had an expression of reluctance on her face, but her voice was so unconfident that she could even hear her. Sana chuckled and shook her head. She thought that Kamiya Tenraku is not the kind of trash she had encountered before. Chapter 50, Fallen Angel. What, where am I? Opening his eyes and shaking his head, Isay found that he was still at Tenraku's house. Isay-san, are you okay? Why did you suddenly faint? Tenraku's gentle voice and a concerned expression pulled Isay up on the ground. Me? With a dazed expression on his face, he only felt that his whole body was sore and his head was painful. Isay felt that he had forgotten something important, but he couldn't think of it. Isay, you should take more rest. I wanted to let you stay a little longer, but since you are unwell, just go home and rest early. Don't force yourself. Isay felt awkward when he listened to Tenraku but couldn't think of anything wrong, so he nodded. All right, Tenraku-kun, I'll go back first. Although there are still some beautiful girls whose name he has not known, and it is indeed a bit regretful, but as expected, their bodies are more important. Isay also wondered why he suddenly fainted. Could it be that the high frequency power was too high? Burant. Yes, Master Tenraku. Tenraku called out to Burant on one side, and the girl brought a bag to Tenraku. Isay, this is a little something for you, please accept it. How embarrassing is this? Isay originally planned to decline politely, but when he saw the contents of the bag, Isay was instantly excited. Super rare limited edition DVD, the latest album of Peach Jam. He didn't expect to get such a precious thing from Tenraku. Matsuda and Motohama would be envious to death when they know about it. For a moment, Isay's subconscious resistance to Tenraku disappeared, leaving nothing but joy and gratefulness. Tenraku-kun, you are such a good person, I will accept this gift unceremoniously. No, 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 compared to your contribution, this reward is nothing at all. Isay had a touched expression on his face, and Tenraku replied with a smile. Isay didn't know what Tenraku was talking about, and he didn't bother to ask for an explanation. He couldn't wait to go back home to watch the Peach Jam album. Isay said goodbye and left Kamiya family residence. Master Tenraku, why not get rid of that kind of guy? Snuggling into Tenraku's arms, Yubelina's eyes flashed with cold killing intent. In her opinion, it was the wisest way to kill Isay and take care of that issue forever. There is no need for that. With his arms around Yubelina's waist, Tenraku smiled faintly. Isay has no bloodline and he has no talent, and he has now even lost the Gauntlet of the Red Dragon Emperor boosted gear. Isay is destined to never come back in the supernatural circle again. In this life, he can only be an ant-like existence. Underworld, Fallen Angel Headquarters. Valerie, your old enemy has appeared. Seeing a piece of information that had just been sent back, Azazel's eyes flashed with a sharp light, and then he looked to the side towards the silver-haired youth. Vala Lucifer. Who is it? A pair of silver-white wings spread out behind him, and Vali exploded out with a fighting spirit. It's that kid from the Phenex family. He snatched the gauntlet of the Red Dragon Emperor boosted gear from its predecessor's body, and he had just fused Sacred Gear's power and displayed balance break. What a terrible kid, he is a monster like you. Speaking of this, Azazel couldn't help but sigh. Even he didn't expect that weak boy to grow up to where he is now. This is really misleading. So it's him. With an imposing and powerful fighting spirit in his heart, a flash of light flashed in Vala's eyes. Although he had heard that guy has the ability to seize other people's sacred gears, Vala didn't pay much attention to it. They were just boring tricks in his view. But now it's different. Since that guy had captured a Longinus and became the contemporary Red Dragon Emperor, then he is his opponent, his old enemy, and he must fight him. What happened, Vali? Why aren't you rushing to fight your old enemy now? Looking at Vali, who looked restless but forced himself to be restrained, Azazel laughed and asked. Hey, that guy has just merged with the power of the Red Dragon Emperor, and it would be too boring to fight him now. I will wait for a while. I will wait until he has completely mastered the power of the Red Dragon Emperor, and only then I will fight him. I will let him know that Albion and I are the real strongest. Feeling proud and confident, Vala snorted and put away the light wings behind him. He still disdains to do that kind of despicable trick. He wants to defeat Tenraku when he is at his peak. Touching his chin, Azazel thought that the kid's growth rate was too terrifying, and in a while, even Vala might not be able to beat him. But Azazel didn't say these words, because he knew it was useless. Vala is an idiot battle maniac, but he is more proud than anyone. DxD. Master Azazel, this is Rainiray. The sound of knocking on the door came, while a girl's voice sounded outside. Vala cast a joking look at Azazel, then disappeared with a flash of light, and Azazel rubbed his head as he was getting a headache. Come in. As Azazel's voice fell, a girl walked in from outside the room. The girl is beautiful and has a graceful figure. She looked otherworldly with a pair of black wings behind her. She is a fallen angel girl. Rainiray, what are you doing again? Master Azazel, I to you. Azazel asked the girl when she came in, and the girl named Rainiray was blushing with an unspeakable look on her face. This again, I have already told you, Rainiray, I am past the age of obsessing with your type of woman, and you are not my favorite type. After sighing, Azazel felt a terrible headache come in. He didn't remember how many times he had said this to the girl in front of him. Master Azazel, I can do everything for you, and I can dedicate everything to you. What kind of women do Azazel-sama like? No matter what type, I will try to make myself like that. Looking at the face filled with determination and excitement, Azazel couldn't help but twitch his mouth when looking at such a stubborn girl. If it were an enemy, he would have thrown an attack over it, but facing an admirer of his own, he really couldn't do it. He can't kill, he can't refuse, and she isn't taking the refusal. He only feels annoying, and his whole head hurts. However, at this moment, a flash of inspiration flashed in his head and Azazel suddenly thought of an idea. Rainiray, if you can do something for me, I will accept you. Azazel spoke as the corners of his mouth curled up. Master Azazel, please speak. Rainiray was overjoyed when she heard this. I want you to be. Azazel told Rainiray about his plan again, and the girl's eyes sparkled, and then she confidently agreed. Master Azazel, don't worry, I will definitely finish what you told me. Not able to wait anymore, Rainiray left after speaking. She is filled with expectations. As long as she completes this mission, she will be loved by Master Azazel. Hee boy, don't blame me, I can't do anything about this. Seeing Rainiray leaving, Azazel also sighed slightly with a sullen and mischievous smile on his face, then he stood at the window and looked at the purple sky outside. It's a bit boring lately, should I also go to the human world for a walk?